Welcome everyone to the 123rd meeting of 7th Council Municipality of South Dundas on this last Monday of June of 2022. Confirmation of agenda. Is there any additions, deletions, or amendments tonight, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we will add two different closed sessions at the end of the meeting under item 11, under section 239, 2B and E of the Municipal Act, related to staffing and the Ontario Land Tribunal hearing. And then we have had a request to move consent items A, C, and G to discussion, please.
Okay. Is there any changes or additions, deletions, or amendments from any members of council they haven't done yet? Seeing none, any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof this evening. Councillor Wells.
Mayor, in action request D, Morrisburg viewing platform. My son owns the company.
Okay, we will go ahead without your input. Anything further? Seeing none, the adoption of minutes from the June 13th regular meeting and the June 22nd special meeting of council.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gardner, seconded by Councillor Mellon, that the minutes of the 121st regular and in-camera meetings and the 122nd special and in-camera meetings of council be adopted as circulated.
Any discussion on either one of them? Seeing none, all in motion, those in favor, opposed if any, motion carries. So tonight, we welcome our auditor, Jamie Pollock from MNP LLP from big city of Cornwall as our, and we'll be presenting to council our 2021 audit report. Jamie, welcome to South Dundas.
Thank you very much for having us tonight, Mr. Mayor. I guess I'm ready. Everyone knows who I am. I'm Jamie Pollock. I'm a partner with MNP and chartered professional accountant. I've been with MNP now for just over 4 years, and the preceding firm of Craig Keane Despatty Markle for 16 years before that. So I believe in your package you have a draft copy of the financial statements along with our auditor's report. If there's any questions or concerns at any time, please stop me and I'll be happy to answer your questions. I believe you have a draft copy on the screen, so we kind of just jump to the independent auditor's report. And it is addressed to the members of council, the inhabitants and ratepayers of the corporation of the municipality of South Dundas and its local boards. I'll just read the first two paragraphs, which is our opinion paragraph. It says, we have audited the consolidated financial statements of the corporation of the municipality of South Dundas and its local boards, the municipality, which comprise the consolidated statement of financial position as of December 31st, 2021, and the consolidated statements of financial activities, changes in net debt and cash flows for the year then ended, and notes to the consolidated financial statements, including a summary of significant accounting policies. In our opinion, the accompanying consolidated financial statements presents fairly in all material respects the consolidated financial position of the municipality as of December 31st, 2021, and the results of its consolidated statement of financial activities, changes in net debt, and its consolidated cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. So it's a clean audit opinion. That's what you want to hear from us coming with our report for your financial statements. A return to page 1 after our auditor's report, which is your statement of financial position or your balance sheet. It's at December 31st, 2021, and it's a particular point in time. So a lot of these numbers would be different by now as of today's date, but we're auditing as of December 31st, 2021. If you look under your total financial assets, total amount is 15.8 million compared to 14.6 million, 1.1 million increase from the previous year, or 8%. And most of that increase is in your cash position. Your top line, which is 8.4 million compared to 6.7 million, an increase of 1.6 million from the previous year. We will see Most of that increase is due to the raising of new debt in the year of approximately the same amount to help pay for projects of costs that incurred previously, and that helps increase your cash position. Your tax receivable, it's lower by $378,000, but that's a good thing. That means you've collected some overdue accounts over the year, and now the closing balance at December 31st is lower by that amount. Accounts receivable is mainly your water and sewer outstanding receivables plus outstanding grants, and that amount has decreased slightly at $65,000. So total assets, $15.8 million. Your financial liabilities, the total is $16.3 million compared to $15 million from the previous year. It's an increase of $1.33 million or 8.8%. Most of that increase is due to your municipal debt, which is now at $8.8 million compared to $7.8 million the previous year, an increase of almost $900,000. And your deferred revenue obligatory reserve fund has gone up by $403,000, and that's due to funds that you received but not yet spent, mainly to the federal and provincial gas tax funds. So your net debt position at December 31st, $483,900, an increase of $155,600 from the previous year. It's not positive, which net financial assets will be, but you're just shortly below it at negative $483,000. When you look at your non-financial assets, which includes your tangible capital assets, which is recorded for net book value purposes for accounting, it's $105.2 million compared to $102.6 million from the previous year. There was a retroactive adjustment made to include all the lateral linear assets in the year, which was about $9 million, and that's everything that's under the roadways inside the towns that was never part of the water and sewer systems, and that was adjusted for this year. And that's the only item we still haven't finished auditing, so I won't be in a position to really issue our auditor's report, I'll say tonight, but once we're finished that, then we would be able to issue our auditor's report. And I believe some of the information to support what that adjustment is for is being presented after our presentation tonight. When you include inventory, your non-financial assets is 105.3 compared to 102.8. So your closing accumulated surplus, which includes your tangible capital assets like your infrastructure, land, buildings, equipment, is $104.8 million compared to $102.5 million, an increase of 2.36 or a 2.3% increase, favorable to the good for the year. If we turn to the next page, this is your statement of financial activities or your income statement for the year ended December 31st, 2021. And I'll just mention this is recorded for public sector accounting standards. So when you look at the third line from the bottom, you'll see an annual surplus of $2.36 million, which is the middle column, compared to $2.7 million the previous year, or budgeted of $654,187. But also in your package, I believe there is a one-page summary, which kind of explains how we go from the PSAS amount to what your operating surplus is for the year, both for operating and water and sewer. Which unfortunately is not part of the presentation, but it should be in your package. So I can tell you that for this year, you had an operating surplus of $379,626, and you had an operating water and sewer surplus for the year of $137,405. And where most of this surplus comes from, if we're still looking at the statement of financial activities, It's mainly in the savings and general government, but you had a savings of about $60,000. And that's due to less professional fees, materials, and services. You had savings in protection to persons and property, savings about $362,000, and that's because of less emergency management costs required, and savings in salaries. Transportation services was a small savings there of $56,400 due to less salaries and benefits, but there was higher fuel and repairs and maintenance costs, but an overall savings of $56,400. When you look under environmental services, you see there's an increase of about $126,000. And that's mainly to our PSAB adjustment, an increase in the future landfill closure, post-closure costs. That amount was $147,000. But when you back that amount off, you actually had a savings in environmental services by approximately $21,000, and mostly in water and sewer, which helped contribute to the surplus for water and sewer in the year. You see there's savings in health services about $50,000 because there was no recruitment of doctors in the current year, so you didn't need to spend any funds that's budgeted. There was savings in recreation and cultural services by just under $200,000. And that's because of savings in salaries, materials, and services, and mainly part of that's due to COVID closures that did occur in 2021, not as much as in 2020, but there was some closure periods in 2021. And then planning and development, there was savings about $100,000, and that's due to savings in salaries, materials, and services really across the board. So with those savings, as you can see, under expenses is about $580,000, and that's what really attributed to your overall surplus for both water and operating purposes, and that was transferred at the end of the year pursuant to your bylaws. So with the surplus of operating of $379,626, I would say that you had a good year. And same with your water and sewer operations, and both of them got transferred to the reserves and reserve funds at the end of the year, as directed by your bylaws. Now, if we kind of turn the page here, this is the statement of changes in net debt. Under PSAS, we have in the middle column, they indicate a surplus of $2.4 million. But then we add back the amortization expense of 2.9. There's capital additions in the year of just under 5.6 million. And that kind of increased your debt, your overall in net debt by 155,633. But what's in that amount is the PSAP change for future landfill closure costs. So if you put like that back in, if I indicated as 147, your net debt basically broke even for the year. If we go to the statement of cash flows, the third line from the bottom, it shows your increase in cash is 1.672. And I indicated earlier, we look under the cash from investment activities, which is the second part, proceeds from municipal debt, 1.65 million. So that's really explains your increase in your cash position for the year. You did receive cash from operating activities, the first part of about 6.2 million, but you utilize that 6.2% to your budget to make down repayment of debt as part of the second category, 755,000, and the acquisition of tangible capital assets of 5.6. So when you add that two together, it basically wipes out the cash from your operating activities. So overall, your closing cash balance is 8.31 compared to 6.7 million from the previous year. We have your statements of tangible capital assets, which is on the next two pages. If you look at the second last line, net book value 2021, and kind of go over right to your right-hand side, the second last column is your net book value, which is 105,274,619. And as I indicated, this is recorded for accounting purposes, at historical cost less accumulated amortization. It doesn't represent your fair market value or your replacement value, but what's recorded on your financial records. And if we look at that net book value compared to your total costs, about a few lines up, $143,000 is your total cost for the year. The net book value represents about 74% of your total costs. So when we look at it as auditors, we say you still have 74% or 3/4 of your useful life of your assets still able to be utilized within the township. And that makes sense with all the upgrades over the last 10 years and what you've put into your infrastructure systems with your water distribution plant, the upgrades in your sewer lines and all the bridges and roadways in the municipal building here. The next page is basically the same information but presented by department. And you'll see that the most biggest amounts is under your transportation services, which is the third column in at 23.6 million, and your environmental services, really your water and wastewater systems at 66.5 million. When we talked about your accumulated surplus of 104,870, it's broken down into three parts. We have a kind of a net operating deficit, the first part, which is negative 4.5 million, and that's really liabilities to be covered from future revenues, which is for the future accrued landfill closure and post-closure costs, internal debt that you have to your reserve funds, and long-term debt for closing the landfill costs. The middle part is your reserves and reserve funds. Total balance is just over 11 million compared to 10.4 million the previous year, an increase of 588,810 or 5.7%. And I'll go into more details on your reserves shortly. And your invested in tangible capital assets is your tangible capital assets less your debt for a closing balance of 98.3 million compared to 96.8, an increase of 1.1 million or 11.8%. So unfortunately, the invested in tangible capital assets is the one part you can't spend because you already did spend it in your infrastructure system that you have. If we turn to page 17, I'll just skip through all the significant accounting policy notes, or I might be here to the Leafs win the cup. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, that's
okay. Don't bother me any at all.
So we have deferred revenue, which is funds that you received but not yet spent. You have a little bit left in the OCIF fund, $1,700. Your O-Star is $16,750. My understanding it'd be utilized this year. And then your GIF, your Green Infrastructure Fund, has a closing balance of $373,000 for a total of $391,000. Note 5 is your deferred revenue obligatory reserve funds. And I indicated the total balance is $834,000, but your gas tax funds makes up $512,000. So once again, these are funds that you received but not yet spent. And you're obligated to spend those based on the criteria of the programs that they're for. If you don't spend them, then they have to be returned. But the gas tax funds at the end of December 31st is $512,000. You have unspent funds for COVID-19 programs of $108,000, and your Parkland Reserve Fund is $214,000 at the end of December 31st. Next page is a breakdown of your municipal debt. And you can see the last two lines are the new debt that you took on in 2021. One is for the water tower rehab work that was done, and the closing balance is just over $1 million. And then for the Dutch Meadows pumping station, that balance is just under $600,000. So your total municipal debt now is 8.7 compared to 7.8 million the previous year. You show the breakdown of the payments over the next 5 years and how those funds will be, how those payments will be funded at the bottom part by either general municipal revenues, rental revenues, user charges, and tile drains. If we go to page 20, this is your water and wastewater operations. As indicated, you had a surplus for the year of $137,405, and it's broken down between the South Dundas Municipal Water System, small surplus of $31,000. Iroquois wastewater was $8,000, Morrisburg wastewater $87,800, and then Municipal wastewater was $10,431. If we turn to page 22, this is the breakdown of your reserves and reserve funds. At the bottom, the total, as indicated, is just over $11 million compared to $10.4 million the previous year, an increase of $588,000, or a 5.7% increase. When we look at just your reserves, that balance is $7.2 million compared to $6.1 million, increase of 1.1 or 18.8%. Most of the increases you'll see is under working capital. That is up by $225,000 at $2,000,003. Water is up by $275,000 at $835, and wastewater is up by $328,000 at just under $1.1 million. Other increases is roads at $499 compared to $430. Landfill closure costs, or just for landfill operations or closure costs, $935, that's up by $200,000. Winter control is at $119 compared to $50,000, and protections to persons and properties at $270 compared to $186. So overall, mainly increases in majority of those funds as pursuant to your budget of putting amounts there plus your surpluses that you had during the year. Your reserve funds overall is $3.7 million compared to $4.2 million, a decrease of $563,000 or 13%. But if you recall, you did withdraw $900,000 out of your infrastructure reserve in the year, which is the middle line. It's now at $1.7 million, but you did earn $98,000 in earned income from interest on the promissory notes and dividends from Rideau St. Lawrence. So the closing balance is only down by $802,000 and not $900,000. But, and we'll go back to this, but when you look at your reserves and reserve funds, you're in very strong position, and we'll go through the kind of the 5-year ratios, and you'll see that it really supports that. If I just go back up to this page 19, note 9, one thing I want to indicate, we kind of show where the operating surplus comes from of $517,000. I indicated what was water and wastewater and what was operating reserves for operating. So the operating surplus of $379,626 was allocated to several reserves at the end of the year, of which $268,000 was transferred to the working capital reserve, and this is the last paragraph right on this page. $18,000 was transferred to the fire reserve, $44,000 was transferred to the winter control reserve, and $48,800 to the campground reserve. So your total operating surplus of $379,626 was allocated between those four reserves based on the savings or additional revenue in those kind of departments during the year, and was transferred to the work in those reserves accordingly. If we go to the 5-year financial review, you'll see the revenues for 2021 is $13.9 million, where 5 years ago it was 11.8. Expenses was $14 million, where it was $12 million the previous year. So both have kind of increased approximately at $2 million each over those 5 years for both revenue and expenses. Annual deficit before other items, $84,000, which is the lowest in 5 years. You'll see a big deficit for 2019, but that's when we end up accruing the closure costs for the Williamsburg landfill site, and that caused that particular year's deficit. Other revenue for capital purposes was $2 million for an annual surplus of $1.98 million. We have property taxes billed, overall was $21.1 million, but the municipality share was $7.7 million. When you compare this to 2017, it's about $1.1 million increase, or a 3.5% annualized amount. When you look at taxable assessment, the amount for residential farm is just under 1.5 billion. When 5 years ago it was 1.2 billion, and it's an increase of 4% annualized over those 5 years. And when you look at your municipal residential tax rate, is 51.7% compared to 48.6%. It's up by, 3.1% over those 5 years, which works out to 1.3%. So what that tells me, when you look at your taxable assessment growth and your municipal tax rate growth, your increase in your property taxes is being brought in by the increase in the taxable assessment, and not because of an increase in your residential tax rates. Your rates are moving in accordance with inflation, but it's the taxable assessment that's really increasing your property tax revenues for the municipality. This chart actually does bring one area of concern. If you look under the commercial and industrial percentage, which is the line right before the municipal residential tax rate, and this is not really the tax rate, but it's the percentage of your total taxable assessment. This year for 2021 is 11.83%, but it has been slowly decreasing each year since 2017, when it made up 12.44% of your total taxable assessment. So as commercial and industrial assessment goes down on a percentage basis, that means the residential and farm rate payers is picking up more of the difference. When we go through the financial indicators, because of your pickup on the collection of taxes receivable, your percentage of tax arrears in comparison to your own levy is 10%, where it was 15%, so it was down by 33%. Your percentage of your total levy is now 4%, where previous year was the highest 7, about 5 years ago, then it was down to 6 to 5, now down to 4%. So that shows us that your administration is now having a better handle on the collection of overdue taxes. And one thing that does help is that, based on rules under the Ontario Municipal Act, is that you can now start the registration process for unpaid taxes after 2 years, where previously it was after 3 years. So that helps force with the collection. We indicate your municipal debt at the end of the year is 8.8 million, and it's been slowly increasing, and long-term debt charges for the year, it's just over 1 million, and that's your principal plus your interest. But when you look at your financial assets to liabilities, it's close to 1-to-1, which is probably a good rule of thumb to be in for a municipality. But when you exclude items like long-term debt, your financial assets to liabilities is 1.8, and that's kind of your working capital ratio. So anyone who's in business will know that an ideal working capital ratio is about 2-to-1, and you're at 1.83-to-1. So it's a good ratio to have. Your long-term debt to tangible capital assets is now at 8.32%. I think the guideline is to keep it around 10% for a lower tier municipality like yourself. But you're still got quite a room left, because it just slowly increases each year. But you still got about 2% before I'm kind of concerned as your auditor, but it's still a good percentage to be in. And when you look down at your reserve coverage, your total reserves is 7.2 million, which have been increasing since 2018 at 5.7 million. The percentage of reserves to your operating expenses is 52%. Ideally, we like to see that between 25 to 50%. So the amount of reserves that you have in place is very strong with percentage to your operating expenses. And your reserves to working capital is 0.97. Ideally, we'd like to see that as 1-to-1. That means whatever you have in reserves, it's offset by your working capital, which is cash plus taxes plus AR or taxes receivable plus AR less than accounts payable. So Lease, with the reserves, you do have that working capital set aside or part of your overall financial position. So when I look at these financial indicators, along with your surplus for the year of $379,000 for operating and $137,400 for water and wastewater, you had a good year and you're still in very strong financial shape because of your working capital position and your reserve and reserve funds position. So that is our highlight on the financial statements for your year ended December 31st, 2021.
Well, thank you, Jamie, for enlightening council and the audience on our financial position. I think, as you say, from my review too, we are in a fairly decent position. I think debt is starting to concern us, but you say we're fairly well in that regard. I know reserves were an issue when we all got elected, and not a big issue, but a concerning issue. And I think by the time we get through our asset management plan presentation tonight, we can spend every drop and not have a penny left. But at least we're in a position we can start that pile and maybe not get through it all, but at least have a good start at it. I think the surplus certainly reflects somewhat on council, but a lot on staff for taking what budget we had and spending it wisely and having some pennies left over, and that's a good thing. There's no doubt about it, but I think we have a fairly good base here for the next council to work with, no matter how some people will manipulate figures later on for their own liking. So, comments, questions, concerns?
Thanks, Jamie. I was looking through because I always like to hear what the recommendations are because we can always do better. Just the HST rebates. So I know that you say that we have some unclaimed stuff, HST rebates that we haven't claimed.
That's correct.
I don't know, are we working on getting that money? Somebody, Shannon, somebody?
I think that is in process, and that's something that I was directly looking at with your administration staff during the audit, and we know it pertains to a couple of years ago. We just need to spend some more time to determine that what I see should be claimable is indeed claimable.
Okay.
So, and I think it has to do with when we made the adjustments to claim back the full ITCs that we were entitled to under recreation
Okay.
programs, because whatever you charge at 100% for HST services, you can claim back the full HST, but that is in process with your administration
So it
staff.
could be a fairly decent number then, right? It's not a, okay.
I'll say approximately, I don't want to commit to anything just
Yeah.
in case I'm wrong, but
Ballpark.
we're looking at about $100,000.
Okay. So
And
that's
that will
where-
help with the cash flow if that is indeed
Yeah,
the case. And it all looks like it boils back to a journal entry, but it's a journal entry that's based on something, so I'm confident it is something that can be claimed back.
okay. Well, it's always good when the recommendation means to find more money, so that-
Yes.
I'm okay with that. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilor Lewis?
No, I have no questions. A good report, Jamie, like always, of course. And believe it or not, I stayed awake for the whole thing.
Okay, that's good.
Councilor Mellon, you have any comments, questions, concerns?
We're in the money. I was gonna sing that, but I didn't think I should. Yeah, Jamie, thanks for, there's a lot of numbers, a lot of figures here. You touched on it, our debt load is creeping up, and you're saying 10 should be sort of our top end, 10%?
I think 10, I'll say from a conservative point of view, the number that would be satisfied with there is 10%. I think once you start going over there, you're starting to run into a little bit of trouble. I won't say trouble, but you're still carrying on a lot of debt to your tangible capital assets. And another kind of ratio to look at is the percentage of debt charges to your total operating revenues. I didn't mention it, but it's 7.4%. When that hits 10%, that means 10% of your total
Yeah.
really revenue is going straight to pay for debt. And I think that will kind of, if that happens, then you're sacrificing the cost incurred to support all your other services is being shifted over to pay for debt. So,
And
yes,
then-
it's been increasing, but you still have room to take on some more that you still be financially strong with that debt, but once you hit over 10 and starting to go up to like 15%, then that's getting very high.
And there is a number, maybe you know what it is, that the government will allow us to go to, which is,
Oh, yes, that's a high number. That's
We
called
don't
the
wanna go
annual-
there. It's
annual
25%?
repayment. It's called the ARL, the annual repayment limit, and it allows you to go up to 75% of your
70.
total revenues.
75. I thought it was 25. Wow.
Is it 25 or 75? It must be 25, you're correct.
I don't know, I remember 25?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes more sense. I knew it was a quarter off somewhere, so.
sound like a farmer.
I was gonna say about that, that's what farmers do, up to 75 and hope for the best.
Yeah. And when we were just at the end here, our drainage billing has been caught up. And I remember a few years ago, we were well over $1 million. I don't know I am trying to find it here just in the last couple minutes, but it's pretty well, we've got that pretty well cleaned up. Justin, you're shaking up. Yeah, we're down to what, 50,000 maybe, or is it
Pretty well the work we did last year, it's less than 50, yeah.
less than, good?
Yeah, it's
That-
been a few years, but yes, it was over $1 million, and that
Yeah.
has gone down significantly down to that balance of about $50,000, and that's just for, as your administration just recommended, just for work
Kudos
that
to
was done
staff
from
for
last
that. I
year.
mean, they've worked hard to get it down there and been a sore point. But anyway, I don't, we got a little bit of a surplus. We'll figure it later. I'm done.
You haven't got it spent yet, Councilor Mellon?
Not yet, but I got a couple places we can.
Well, I know, I've known you from the past, Councilor Wells.
Anyways, thank you, Jamie, for your report. I don't really have a lot. I have one question on, what would your recommendation be on that property we sold over on, in Industrial Park? Would you take, say, I think it was what, 650,000 or whatever?
Yeah.
Would you take that and just pay down that loan as quick as we can on the industrial, or would you put it in a reserve, or what would you recommend? So, we haven't got the money yet, but I'm just saying, when we get the money.
Well, that's a good question, and and I guess if you ask 10 different accountants, you might get 10 different answers.
Like, I know myself, like, I would take the money, if there was a debt owing, try to pay it off as quick as I can. But then also, you look in, I think that loan is at 3.3%. So, do you keep that money in reserve, knowing you gotta borrow other money, and just that you're gonna borrow at a higher rate? I just wanna, like, your take on it.
So what your suggestion is a good idea. It is 3.31%, and when it was made, that was considered a low rate at the time. I know the rates are going back up, but you just finalized some debt this past year at 2%, 2.71%. So yes, if you pay down the debt, you will save some interest charges, and then you eliminate one of the debt. You could also look at, and it's kind of built into our recommendations from previous years, looking at what you're earning on your restricted assets or your reserve fund bank accounts, and see if you can earn a higher interest with that through the use of GICs or
And GICs right now
savings.
are up almost 4%.
yeah, so when you look at that, you could park the money, earn, some interest at 4%, and then help pay that for the interest that's at 3.31%, so you'd be further
just
ahead, and then
offset,
utilize the 650 for something else to, pay for infrastructure, or, earn the interest at a better time, or, like I said, paying down the debt is not a bad idea either, but at least park the 650 in a reserve fund and earn interest on it, till you really
Yeah.
need to utilize
Like,
it.
at the end, I just wanted to know what you thought, because like you said, 10 different accountants will tell you 10 different things, and it's all, it's how you put things in perspective, I guess. But anyways, that's basically the only thing I had.
Okay, well, I slipped to the municipal debt because I know that this comes up, this will come up at election time. I know that, I know that a previous mayor in South Stormont lost his election on somebody claiming municipal debt was gonna wreck South Stormont, and I'm looking at it saying there's no way it can, but people will believe what they will. You do bring up some good points, Councillor Wells, but that loan's locked in. We're committed to whatever term it is.
You mean these aren't open loans when you're dealing with?
These are not open loans.
Okay.
That's why they're so cheap.
Okay.
They are cheap because they're not open
I
loans.
guess I did a lot of talking for nothing then.
You did, but I wanted you to continue on because I wanted to challenge Jamie at the same time.
But your observations are excellent, that you got options when you do sell that park, what to do with it. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, so, what you could do with the money, if you're asking this accountant over here, is you'd park that in reserve fund to pay off that debt.
Yeah, earn
Instead of
interest at
spend it on
4%.
something else, because we have that habit of putting it into sale of assets account, and all of a sudden, budget time comes along, oh, there's a nice piggy bank that we can spend, and that's not necessarily what we should do. So the next council needs, and staff should, once we get that kind of funding, especially on the industrial park where we spent, almost $1 million on it, how do you recoup that money? That's how you do it, by selling. But then if you go blow it on something else, you really don't do it. So it's, it takes some discipline to do those kinds of things, but they can be done.
And if I believe if your asset management plan is being reported tonight, then maybe it should all tie into that and your financing policies, and maybe that 650 would be used for a particular purpose if it's kind of outlined in your asset management plan.
We need about 100 times that to
Yes,
complete with our
I
asset
understand
management
that.
plan.
Us and everybody else. I know municipal debt is always an issue, but you go through, and there's good debt and bad debt. That's the way you look at it. So there's debt on this place. And I'd say 3/4 of the residents in South Dundas say that was good debt. The Iroquois Medical Center was something that we got into with the St. Lawrence Medical Clinic, and we've done some negotiation to flip that around. It's our problem now, but I'd say it was quasi-good debt at the time. The municipal water plant, that's a no-brainer. The industrial park was probably a challenge, but I do remember being on council 2007, 8, 9, and trying to decide what to do with that parcel of land, and we finally decided to put the road in, and the last council put some more services in. So, and now we've turned around and made some use of it by selling it. So, in the end, it was probably the smart thing to do. Took some gumption, though. Then we come to the worst debt we have, which is spending $1.8 million to cover up a landfill. And there's a pretty classic example of why you need to put reserves aside for landfill closures, because, as much as it was 1.76 was the cheapest money on the sheet, it still has to be repaid, and that's, it causes 2% on the tax rate every time. Tile drain loan's not a problem. Equipment lease, not sure what that is, but it's pretty small. Water tower rehabilitation, that's just something that just really gets me going, because some municipalities got a significant chunk of money because they had a really good MPP to get them money, and I'm not going to say the town or where it is, but we begged for money, and finally did what we had to do, and we do have some now 30-year-old water towers, 60-year-old water towers, and now will last us another 20, 25, 30 years, so had to be done. And then the investment in the pump station will be paid off over time as we get the charges back. So I think, from a business point of view, and I know Councillor Wells and others we look at it as a business, and this isn't a business, but you can justify a lot of these debts. Are we getting to the top? Are we starting to get uncomfortable? We're gonna go debt for the Taylor Road Bridge, but we're paying off half of it and debting half. So that's not too bad in the end. If the asset's worth $900,000 and you're only loaning $450,000, that's a pretty good ratio to start with, and then pay it back in 10 years. So I think we've done well for what we have. We've accumulated some extra funds. Some people say we shouldn't accumulate funds, and fair enough. But we're going to be told later on this evening that we need a lot of money to get to where we need to get to. And that's a challenge, but it's an easier challenge when you have a little bit of a piggy bank on the side to get it started. You don't have to go get it all at once, so. Anything else, Jamie?
Just to continue with your thought, and your good thoughts with the amount of debt, and most of it is good debt, but you also have the amount of reserves and reserve funds that help kind of offset that. Like if you were a municipality that did not have those reserves and reserve funds, then it would be kind of a little bit more scary. You're carrying all the debt without some sort of backup, just in case you needed to dip into reserves to pay for some of this debt if your revenue kind of dry up in any particular year, that you're strong with the reserves and reserve funds that allows you to take on this amount of debt. And that helps kind of balance this off to reduce the overall risk to the municipality.
Okay, any other comments, questions, concerns from council? Seeing none, thank you very much for coming to South Dundas this evening to present a good audit statement. We appreciate the work that you and your staff do with our staff to come up with these figures, and I know we're still in a contract to go a few more years on this, so I know that you'll be auditing our work that the next council will see, and hopefully things will work out just as well as they have for the last number of years.
Well, thank you very much. I'm always happy to be in God's country because that's where I'm from. So, and I'd like to thank your administration staff of all your Shannon and Sean and Lachlan and Sarah and the support staff to help with our audit and to be here tonight to present the draft statements. And I look forward with working with them for future years, and hopefully, I know not all of you will be back, but hopefully all of you will be back, and I enjoy working with all of you, and all the best with this upcoming municipal election season.
Okay, thank you very much. And with that, I assume we're going to have a resolution at our next meeting. And then we will also have staff report on the surplus and how we're going to manage it. Okay, thank you very much, Jamie.
Thanks, Steve. Have a nice evening.
You too. Safe drive back. Our next delegation this evening is the Iroquois Plaza concept plan from the Iroquois Business Group, and I'd like to welcome Candace Latou up to our meeting. I will say before I start that if it wasn't for Candace, the Iroquois Business Group wouldn't be what they are. She does a lot of work, and much as she does have a lot of helpers in the background, she's the pusher and the prod in front, and I think Iroquois and South Dundas are really benefiting from that. So thank you very much for all that work.
Thank you, Steve. And we do have a great group of volunteers, so most of you are aware what the Iroquois District Business Group is. We are a collective nonprofit group of local business partners, and a large part of who we are and what we do is assist in many ways to beautify and improve our community. So this brings us to why I'm here to you before you tonight. The Iroquois District Business Group would like to ask just for your permission and your blessing to go forward with a 4 to 5 year project plan to beautify the area in the plaza, which is an area that we use quite often for tourists will come to sit and rest. Workers will also look for a place to eat. They shop. We have many festivals and activities that take place in the plaza. So it's a very common gathering area for us. With the assistance of Justin, we've kind of put a picture to show you a bit of what we're working with. I'm very pleased to say that we are just about done the first part of the project. Let me find my place here, sorry. It has been completed and will be revealed on Thursday, June 30th. I'm not sure if there's any press here, but if you could just keep this part a little secret until we get the press there on Thursday.
The press is virtual, so they are here.
Oh, seriously?
Yes, they are. Rebecca listens at home.
I'm very excited. We have something really special to reveal. So as some of you can see, you can't see what it really looks like. I did get the pleasure of seeing it today, and I'm very, very happy with it. But thanks to KBD Transportation, George from Metalworks, and Henry Lowen, one of the teacher instructors at Seaway District High School, and his students. It's been a really good community project, so they've all assisted in picking things up, putting it together, and some more volunteers will come forward tomorrow to bring it to the plaza. I've also spoke with Lloyd McMillan, and he's going to do what needs to be underneath, not before it's brought, but it will be done. And also to SD&G County's tourism grant, which we successfully received $2,500 to put towards the project. So I'm very pleased about this. The second part of the project is to provide a pavilion sheltered area for visitors, people who live there, people who work there. At present, when we do festivals and big activities, we have to rent tents, which, as most of you know, get very expensive. This would be something that would be there permanently, and I, myself and the other members of the business group and the community feel it would very well serve the community. Now, at present time, we're looking at 20 by 40. We're not sure of prices yet because we want it to get full permission and whatnot before we start proceeding with all those little details, and Justin can fill you in more on that if you have questions. The third part, you going to that part first? I thought you were going to the signage. Okay, so we're working on a tourism signboard. Currently, the Waterfront Committee is also working on some of this project, so their sizing and stuff is a little different than ours, but I'm going to attend one of their meetings and see if we can kind of coordinate things so that financially and whatnot, we can maybe work off each other. But we'd like a map signage board that you could go to in the area. Justin has suggested possibly 4 by 8 feet that would tell you where the different activities, the beach, the golf course, different businesses and so forth are in Iroquois and the surrounding area. And then the fourth and final project is a new signage. And as you can see, it doesn't service all of the businesses in the community. I've been there 15 years. I'm still not on there. 1, 2, 3, I think there's 5 businesses that are active, and there's 3 or 4 of them that have been out of business for 3 or 4 years now. There's no room for new growth. That sign there is actually kind of, the paint's peeling, it's in not very good shape. The new proposal would see 30 locations for 30 different businesses, because in the plaza, right now, there are several businesses that have more than one business in their space. Myself, I have 3 businesses operating in my location. So we would do 15 up top, and then in the center part have a LED lighting so that we could advertise the Apple Festival and any coming events and so forth. And then on the bottom part would be 15 more businesses. And then at some point on the bottom part, we'd like to do some type of garden flower area. So with all this, as I said, we're not asking for money. We're asking just for permission and your blessings. But how we would like to proceed to do it is with local fundraising. Some businesses would make contributions. Some, at the time when we go to do the sign, each individual business that's going to be on there would be asked to make a contribution. The pavilion, for example, we may ask if people want to donate and buy a stone or something that would go in there to help with the cause. And that's why we've projected like a 4 to 5 year plan so that we can get this together. So I'll let Justin answer any of the techie questions if you have any, and I thank you for listening to me tonight.
Well, thank you for your presentation, Candace. I'll turn it over to Councilor Wells to start. Comments, questions, concerns?
Thank you, Candace. It's a very good project. You guys up in Iroquois is amazing. Like your mall, you drive through there, and I just wish
trying.
some of that would rub off here in Morrisburg. But anyways, no, I have no issues with this at all. I think you're making improvements. There's just a few things like you might want to check into as far as your sign goes, whether there's like Ontario Building Code comes in play, and just stuff like that. Like don't wait to the last minute till you find out, because as you know, we've had a few sign issues in the last couple of years here in municipality. So that's one thing, and but as far as the rest goes, like I'm definitely behind you 100%. So
Well, thank you. And Justin, that part of it, that's why he's
there's,
on
okay,
our side.
and just one like, okay, Justin, when it comes to the lighting and that, you guys plan on taking care if there's an electrical problem, or is it gonna come back on to our recurring services? Because we take care of the Morrisburg sign here as far as lighting goes. So if you guys put the sign up, it'd be in our best interest that we should, even though you aren't asking for money, I think you should ask for the municipality to maintain as far as the electrical goes, I think, myself. Instead of, because it'll be an issue, I think it'll be a liability issue if someone's working on a sign that's on municipal property, that, because really, when you guys put the sign up, it's still our sign at the end. Like it's not, I don't think you can have your own sign unless there's.
Historically, it was someone else's sign. It is
Yeah,
ours
but I mean,
now.
I'm talking about moving forward though.
Yeah,
on
moving
this.
forward, yeah, I agree.
Like I would just look into it. I'm not saying it's gonna be an issue, and it wouldn't be an issue as far as fixing it or if a light goes out or a bulb or a breaker or whatever. But I'm just saying it's some of the things, and I'm sure the committee is always, like you're looking into it, so just give me a few heads up because,
And that's something
Yeah,
Justin
we're
and
kinda
I
looking into
are
it.
kind of looking
Yeah.
into, but like I said, until we get to that next stage, we'll keep council on board that they're gonna know what we're doing step by step, and then we can kind of cross that bridge when it comes.
yeah. All right, great, good luck.
Thank you.
Councilor Mellon?
No, I haven't got no issues with it at all. I really like the idea of that pavilion. I think that would really, people that want to stop, get out, stretch their legs, whatever. I really like the pavilion. I mean, it's all good. But I think you'll get a lot of mileage out of that pavilion personally. Giddy up and go.
Thank you.
Councilor Lewis?
I have no issues, Candace. I do want to say, the business group has come a long ways. These guys take care of the flower beds, you do this, you do that. I think you thrive on work. And I've gone to Iroquois and I've seen people out there, doing flower beds. I don't have an issue. I wish you luck. And I know your group will get it done.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
It's fantastic, and I was so proud of your application to the SDNG tourism thing. I sit on that committee, and was so proud that one of the best applications was actually your application. So people were absolutely blown away by the concept and just the stages. I think it was so I would heavily encourage you to keep applying to those grants. There's also the RIP, which may have something, they talk about signage and that type of thing, so that may be an avenue as well. But for the tourism grant, it doesn't have to be a one-timer. You can actually apply.
Every year?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So absolutely fantastic. I love I love the fact that, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but with the big Adirondack chair kind of looping everything in, and welcoming people to Iroquois, I think is fantastic. So you're to be commended, because through a pandemic, coming up with ideas and stuff like that, and then, you know, not getting fatigued and just keep on doing it. So to you and your group, absolutely fantastic, but definitely keep going at those, because we need South Dundas to get their fair share. So keep applying.
Thank you.
And I'll echo all of council. I think, you know, I like the way you've got it presented. You don't expect to do it in 1 year. You know, if things go better, faster, great. Certainly keep working with staff on any type of grant that's available, on the county grants or the community improvement grants we have. Anything you can, that will help your group get this project done faster, because once it's done, all those dollars invested will certainly bloom faster in the village. As I said, and I'm not, this is not me saying this just because I have to say it as a mayor. I really truly believe that you and your group have done a lot of work in Iroquois. If it wasn't for your group, people will just assume things happen, but they don't, because somebody has to do the work, and whether it's you or your volunteers or whatever, things have really, you know, when you think back in the last 4 years in the village of Iroquois and what's happened with, and I know it took a long time for the Tim Hortons ESO to happen, but it's there, it's working well now. There's a new structure coming up that we're gonna do a site plan on. The Ross's video is expanding, like everything is clicking in Iroquois very well. And that's no disrespect to anywhere else in South Dundas, but people in Iroquois need to see that kind of stuff. People in South Dundas need to see that kind of stuff. So I fully encourage you to continue on with your work, work with staff, and if you can make this 3-4 year plan into a 2-3 year plan, that would be all the better for you in South Dundas. But to tighten it up means a little bit more work. This is a good plan. A harder plan tends to tighten up, but that's okay. Everybody, if you don't have any plan, then you don't know where you're going. And it's just like whether you're in business or even at your own home or whatever you have in your own life. If you can't see the next 5 years out of where you want to be, then this is a good idea and certainly a good base to go forward with. So go ahead, Justin.
I just have a couple of things I wanted to point out. I was hoping I'd be able to have it show up here, but I don't think it copied in correctly. There is a tree to the right of that covered pavilion. I don't know if you see it there, but we're kind of looking for permission to get rid of it. It's, I'd say, about half dead, and it's going to be in the way of construction. So if we can have that taken down this year, that would help speed up our process for next year. And then kind of the one thing is there's a little, I guess you could call it a
Outhouse?
shed. Yeah, it's the size of a small
It looks
closet.
like an outhouse. It is.
Guys, it's awful.
It actually blew over in the storm there not that long ago, so. Yeah, we're gonna have to get rid of that, unfortunately, because it's, well, one, it's not easy on the eyes after you beautify this area, and two, it really doesn't serve much purpose other than holding a couple signs. So just so council is aware, we're looking at getting rid of those. That's kind of one of the first steps that we have to take care of.
Okay, does any member of council have any objections to those two? You do?
No.
You were the one, the council that took down that tourism booth and it just disappeared overnight.
No. Tree's gone. All I'm suggesting here is I have no idea the condition of that building, if it can be repurposed. Otherwise, give me a gallon of gas and I'll get rid of it for you.
Currently, the farmer's market put their signs in there that they use in the summer, which I have generously offered. I already allow them to use the washroom, that they can store the signs in the shop and then just come, because I'm there at 6 in the morning, so they have plenty of time to come and get them and move them over.
Yeah.
There's
But
this
it
little,
seriously is an eyesore.
Yeah.
we all agree, I think.
If it- No, I don't, you know, get rid of it.
Okay,
Perfect.
anything else?
Nope, that's it. I think the rest of it will come in due time. The first couple of projects we have on the go don't require any county approvals. The thing that's happening this year is not a structure, so it doesn't require anything. Next year, because it's gonna be municipal infrastructure, the covered pavilion, we don't need any permits from counties because it's right on their county road. So the only thing that counties have to be involved in is the LED sign when we get there down the road. So according to their bylaw, we currently are within its limits for our proposed plan, but we know how those change, so.
Yeah. Oh, well, the sign up on County Road 2 has made a lot of revisions to the sign bylaw at counties. Oh, that's the one that, you know, this one is within those parameters. Work with the counties, I don't, you know,
Yeah, they're in the know, so it's.
that's right. There might be a sign available next month too. Anyway, with that, is there a resolution to this? There's,
I have documented council's direction to proceed with the phased-in project, so if you're okay with that.
okay, because I just noticed in our agenda, you have it as a recommendation, so. At least mine says that.
Oh, no,
Page-
I have it documented that you support the phased-in project. so
Okay.
you're good.
We're good? Okay, and I will encourage you, Candace, that once you have new smiley faces here, don't be afraid to come back, and maybe they'll work with you on certain things, maybe that you plan better within budget, so.
Well, thank you, and
You can always ask for money, the answer may be no, but if you come up with a good plan with working with whoever's here, then I'm not gonna, you know, let them say no instead of you just assume nothing. So I think it's a good plan that works for all South Dundas.
well, thank you again, and thank you, Justin. Justin has been very helpful, as is any of the, oh, my goodness, isn't that awful? South Dundas employees that when we ask to do something, they're always smiling and they're always eager to help us. So I'm very happy with everybody, so thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
So we'll move on to action requests. Get to my page before I get. Okay, first action request is FS 2022-05 Asset Management Plan. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
So moved by Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Lewis, that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of South Dundas approves the attached asset management plan in accordance with Ontario Regulation 588/17 as prepared by Tyler Nelson, Asset Management Coordinator.
Tyler Lachlan, welcome to South Dundas Council tonight. You have a big document that I'm sure every council member went through twice because and before you even start, I'm very impressed with how it's laid out and is very succinct and where we need to go in the next 10 to 20 years. So go ahead, floor is yours.
Okay, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll give full credit to Tyler there. He put in the legwork and spent considerable amounts of time and effort. And I find with your comment there, I'm like a proud papa, even though I've only known him for 5 months. Okay, so back on track here, Laughlin. So this is to approve the asset management plan. We're not getting into approving the financial model, which we will accept. As discussed, that will be for an upcoming council, but this will be part of the budget from now until time memoriam, probably. So the schedule of this evening would be to just recap quickly the legislation, recap what you've seen before, do a summary on the key points that we'd like you to absorb this evening, and then a little bit of the outcomes of the plan. So quick recap, this particular presentation has the core assets, that's water, wastewater, sewer, roads, bridges, and culverts. When I looked at that, the only thing that doesn't convey water is roads, so it's very water focused. And then this would be the timeline of our future goals would be 2024 is all remaining assets. So building and facilities, that's recreation, equipment, vehicles, land improvements, And then the financial strategy, you'll note that we're a little ahead on some of the financial strategy, but we took the approach that while we're looking at it, while you're in the numbers, you might as well work on the numbers, but we'll refine it better and to work towards that. So I'd like to thank Tyler for getting ahead as well as meeting the current legislative obligation. So on March 10th, you saw me for the first time kind of talk about service levels, taxation, consideration of an infrastructure levy, and that we're talking big numbers. You're all aware they're millions, not just hundreds of thousands of dollars. Tyler presented on May 9th, and he brought in probability of failure and consequence of failure and kind of how that risk matrix, and that will be adjusted depending on future council's opinions, but it kind of zeroes you in on certain assets or certain asset categories, and then life cycle planning and how it can save some money. So I'll pass it over to Tyler since he knows what he's talking about. He's the guru.
So thank you, Lachlan. First of all, thanks for the time, council. I have just a quick presentation on some of the key findings from the asset management plan and some of the context behind the key findings. So first of all, after updating replacement costs, core assets are valued at $330 million. That's replacement cost. The majority being water, wastewater, and roads. Oops. So with the updated replacement costs, we have target annual requirement of 6.3 million, but with life cycle events, that number is reduced to 5.7 million. Currently, we're at 43% of the way to full funding, which when divided by household is about $520 for both rate and tax funded assets. So this slide shows the annual requirement in blue and the expected funding per year in orange, or sorry, get ahead of myself here. The annual requirement in blue and expected funding per year in orange. Now for the condition ratings, all core assets except bridges and culverts have condition ratings of good or better. So the information on the last two slides give us our infrastructure report card, which shows that the condition and funding position for South Dundas is quite reasonable. Bridges and culverts and storm are the two categories with the lowest grade. This would be because of the lack of funding for storm and the low condition ratings for bridges and culverts. But I will just mention that after the Taylor Road Bridge replacement, the condition rating for bridges should improve quite a bit. So now I'll get into three options each for both tax and rate funded assets. I will mention first, again, that we're not looking for a decision today, just wanted to highlight the options for you. So for tax funded assets, option one is recommended, a 3.2% increase over a 10-year period. There's also a 15-year and a 20-year option. For rate funded assets, option two is recommended with a 4.8% increase over a 15-year period. We also have a 10-year and a 20-year option for this as well. So with these options in mind, we come back to the major responsibility of council for budget time, finding that balance between annual requirement and levels of service. So we've discussed this before and how lowering levy requirement also means lowering levels of service and other way around. But also I wanted to add here that even just maintaining levels of service also still requires an annual requirement increase, which is why we have the options. So in summary, we've reviewed some of the major points of the plan, some context behind it. We've looked at the available options and discussed council's role moving forward. And if there are any comments or questions, we'll try our best to get you an answer.
Okay. Well, as I said, the full document is well done. I commend you for the entire document. I'm looking to the back and thinking that this needs to be on our website once council approves of it, that the residents of South Dundas can easily reference it. I know that when this council started, one of our focuses on our strategic plan was to deal with asset management plan. We are now as close as we can as this council to do what we need to do. A lot of it's, is fact finding and scaring us with numbers, and I will make this comment when I look at the forecasted capital requirements that I'm glad I won't be here in 2060 to deal with the big headache that's beyond any scope that has to be fixed, and that's basically because all your water assets are 100 years old, and technically that's the end of it. But I'm glad you balanced it with real life situations and just technical statistics that, well, it's age, so you do the math and that's how it works. But we all know that sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes the age factor doesn't work because the workmanship wasn't good enough, or sometimes the age factor doesn't work because it's a really good asset and it keeps on going and going and going. But that'll all balance out. So certainly a lot to digest. Certainly the next council will have to look at what we had considered, which was some sort of infrastructure levy, and your 3.2 is close to what we were all thinking. It will take a lot of discipline to make sure that A, it gets done, and B, that those funds go to where they need to be long-term. Deputy Mayor?
No, I appreciate your work on this. I'm glad that it's going to be posted because it needs to, I think it needs to be addressed. I think elections are funny. Everyone runs on 0% increase, and that's not, it's not the case. So thank you, and whether I'm here or not, it is a document that would be interesting to see how it unfolds in the future.
Councilor Lewis?
Wow, what a document. I did not read it twice. I read it once, but I'm going to read it again. The document is phenomenal. Like, the numbers are scary. But you did good work, great work, a matter of fact, and I have no issues supporting it whatsoever. Thank you.
Councilor Mellon?
I know where we can spend our surplus.
Yeah. I don't think we have enough surplus, Councilor Mellon.
We said this at budget time. Our 21% of our bridges and culverts are basically failing. And we're in a position, that's sort of why I asked Jamie, at our audit time, our debt level, we got some reserves, but the reality of the situation is, it's not this council or previous council, it's a case of over the years, it's just been neglected, and we need to step up the game. This gotta be mandatory reading for the next council come December to know what they're into. I just read an article in the East Ontario Farmer, Grey County, in 2 years, their debt or their shortcomings has gone up by $220 million. It's in the East Ontario Farmer. I was reading it this morning, and I thought, wow, they're at 1.6 billion. And everybody's in the same point. And in the article, and it echoes across the board, we cannot depend on the province to bail us out of this. We have to start showing that we're putting the money into it, and it's just a matter of time before we have major failures. And we got some reserves, yes. We have some debt freedom, I guess, if you will, or wiggle room, but this is something that I wouldn't even put it on a shelf. I'd make sure that the next council has this. Should be a council. It should be a package that goes with the nomination papers.
That might scare them all off, though, Councilor Mellon. Be no councilors here.
I'm good, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilor Wells.
I just want to thank you for the report. It's a lot of numbers there. And going through it, like I said, I didn't read it twice, but I went through it a lot. And a lot of this can, these numbers can change like big time. You just take, for example, in the core thing for the bridge there, Taylor Bridge at 2.17 million, now we're at 850,000. So even though this is the report's good, like it's a start, but this can really like fluctuate a lot. So hopefully the next council or whatever, these numbers are a little down, so if people have heart issues or something, they'll be able to go. But I think it's a start, and it's something that it's here and it's definitely gonna help, help this council a little bit, just seeing numbers like that, but the next council too, it'll be even a bigger help to them to look at it, so. Anyways, like I said, it was a good report, it's a start, and we just keep up the good work.
So, go ahead, Tyler.
First of all, thanks for the comments. Second of all, this will be a working document, so we'll update it, I think, at least every year, just so you guys know.
So the next step of the reg, we have to have the municipality has to have a financial plan for it, is that correct?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the next section, the 2024, will be the exact same thing as what I've done, but for for all assets.
Okay.
Not just core assets.
Yeah,
And then the 2025 section will have the financial strategy. However, we did do most of the financial strategy for this one already, so we'll likely just do the same thing for all assets, and then we'll be done by 2024, maybe.
okay. I had heard that mentioned, yeah, and you're right, we don't have buildings in here, we don't have a lot of other assets that we own that technically we still have to take care of and still have to come up with a plan and how we're gonna deal with them, but these are the biggies, these are the ones that people use every day for sure, and some of the other assets you may go through the document and then council may have to have a deep and hard discussion on if they all need to be part of our inventory or not, but that's not our problem tonight. Any further comments on this? Seeing none, all heard in motion, those in favor, opposed, if any, motion carries. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Next one is FS 2022-06, Section 357, tax write-offs.
Moved by Councillor Mellon, seconded by Deputy Mayor Gardner, that council accept report FS 2022-06 to approve the municipal tax write-offs in the amount of $1,634.83 according to the property classes as per the attached.
I assume you're presenting, Lachlan, go ahead.
Yes, and thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. I just lost my page, but in short, this is a commercial taxation being changed to residential taxes, which will have an impact on how much we receive. It's within budget. I believe it was $377.19 was the municipal impact of this. I have never actually, in my previous experience, done one of these. That was completed here by Amanda Alexander, so give credit where credit is due. She's our tax and utility coordinator. So it's in front of you, and I believe, unless you have any substantial issues, it's for you to approve. So it's going from commercial class to residential class, and it's $377.19.
Okay, council have any comments, questions, concerns with this?
No.
Council Mellon?
I have got a question. The 2021 budget write-off is 60,000, current balance is 343. What did we budget in 2022? Because it says it's a 2021 budget.
Oh, sorry. May I just look to Mr. Mason? Perhaps I looked at the wrong year. I think I was trying to look at how much we typically have, so I'm sorry if, well, I'm putting Mr. Mason on the spot. For these, we typically do not have a bunch of control because they are typically like, a fire would bring a lot from RT to exempt for the moment, or a classification from residential to farm, because as you know, when you exchange farm hands, you have to go through a BAFRA. And I think it's Agricor now is the new one. No. So that these do happen.
Yeah,
Okay, go. Valid question, we'll wait for the answer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Mellon. The budget again for 2022 is $60,000, and prior to this 357 being approved, the balance is $343. But that will change drastically throughout the year as the write-offs come in for properties that are being converted from residential to farm, which has the biggest impact on that budget. And and any others for, similar to the 357 or vacancy rebates.
So we're gonna be tapping out the current balance is 343 then, is that the correct amount?
$343,
Okay, so we're gonna be
yes.
a little bit over budget. With what, well, I mean, I don't care where it comes from, I mean, I have no problem with this, I'm just trying to get my head around the 2021 budget and the 2022, and
Go ahead, Lachlan.
If I may, we're not tapping it out quite yet. We have 60,000 reserved in the budget for these items, and we've only used $343,000, $343, sorry. So this will make it 810, or 820.
oh,
It's what we use now, what we got left.
Yes.
okay,
We all good?
yeah.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all heard the motion, those in favor, opposed, if any, motion carries. Thank you. Next one is ES 2022-13, Quarter Revision Committee Appointments.
Moved by Councillor Lewis, seconded by Deputy Mayor Gardner, that Council appoint Mayor Stephen Bivalds, Councillor Archie Mellon, and resident Ron Tunders to the Court of Revision for the Municipality of South Dundas, respecting any appeals on the drainage report for the Don Haynes Drain, Branch Number 1, as prepared by Shade Group Incorporated, dated May 2022.
Before Justin speaks to this, I will not vote or mention anything, speak to this, and I'm going to assume Council Miller won't, so the three of you can decide on this. Go ahead, Justin.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is obviously part of the Drainage Act, part of the appeal process. Unfortunately, we did get caught lacking on this, perhaps. Normally, at the start of a new council, we'll have all of our committees appointed. At the start of this council, we had decided that our council was going to be the Court of Revision appointed, but just out of the essence of having maybe some more agricultural knowledge on the Court of Revision, we had decided to go this route instead, just for this one. And then when the new council is in for the other reports, we got 4 other reports coming, we will have a new volunteer-based Court of Revision appointed for that term of council.
Okay. Any discussion among the three of you?
Nope.
Okay. All heard the motion, those in favor? Opposed, if any, motion carries. Thanks, Justin. A little awkward, but it's got to be done. Next one is PE 2022-15, Morrisburg Viewing Platform Tender.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gardner, seconded by Councillor Mellon, that Council accept report PE 2022-15 to award the Morrisburg Waterfront Viewing Platform construction to J&M Contracting Corp. The project shall be funded from the 2022 Waterfront Committee budget, with all additional funding from the Morrisburg District Lions Club.
David, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So in front of you is a report. In 2021, the Morrisburg Waterfront Committee started the design and getting ready for this project. It carried over into this year, so we just tendered it in June. The tender was set up by staff with the expectation that the $32,000 that they had budgeted likely wouldn't be enough, so we put some provisional items in it to give us firm prices and the flexibility to flex in the price that it would be. The Morrisburg Waterfront Committee met last Thursday. The group decided that they're comfortable with the options outlined in middle ground, which would be a wood deck, wood railing, and a concrete pathway, and then no lights on it yet. I have had discussions with the Morrisburg Lions Club, and they are in the process of getting all the approvals done up for the funding to move forward with the middle ground. Outside of that, I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
Okay. Comments, Deputy Mayor?
Yep, thanks, Mayor. Yep, we had a fulsome discussion with David about the middle ground. I'm glad to hear that our community partner, the Lions Club, is willing to pay the difference, so that's pretty much
Councilor Lewis?
No, I don't have an issue, but I do have a question. Why would they go with wood instead of the plank? It lasts a lot longer, like deck plank.
Like a
Yeah, the
composite.
composite, yeah.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Lewis, it's the cost difference. There's a $5,000 difference between one and the other, and there are pros and cons to both. The composite, it's all hidden fasteners and it'll last longer, but in that environment, it's full sunlight, which is hard on it. And if there is an issue with a composite deck, you almost have to take the whole thing off to replace it with the hidden fasteners, where a wood one, if a board rots of a 5-quarter deck board, you can sort of pop it off and put a new one in. So there's pros and cons, but at the end of the day, it came down to the money talks.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Mellon?
Yeah, I realize it's a money issue. Have we got anything in writing, I guess, from the Morrisburg Lions? Approving that they're gonna pay their, any amount that's over funding?
So I'm, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Mellon, I'm in the process of working our way through that. So once we have either the check or a motion from them that they are going to have the funding, then we'll bring a bylaw back to execute the contract. So that's sort of why we're not executing the contract for this agreement yet, we're just approving the project.
Okay, so we'll be dealing with that before the contract, 'cause.
Yes.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, yeah, I'm good with accepting the tender. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's a big job, and I'm, grateful to the Morrisburg Lions to want to contribute to the project, but I'm still I'm in the camp with Councilor Mellon. It's a big number, and we want to make sure that everybody is comfortable with what we're going to be doing in the end. It's a good project. I think it was already anticipated to go over budget, but going the middle ground is not a bad place to go in the end. And hopefully, once the project's done and out there, it will certainly add to what we've already done at the Waterfront with the path project, and the lighting project, and everything else. And there's certainly be a good base for whoever's on the committee next year to come up with ideas and see if there's new paths to go forward. Anything further, any member of council? Seeing none, all heard the motion, those in favor, opposed if any, motion carries. Thank you. Next one, CS 2022-06, Joint Compliance Audit Committee.
Moved by Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Lewis, that the Council of the Municipality of South Dundas adopt the terms of reference and appoint the following members to the Compliance Audit Committee for the term of November 15th, 2022 to November 14th, 2026. Gilles Paradis from North Glengarry, Denise Labelle-Gelina from South Stormont, Roger Cole, North Dundas, Margaret McDonald, North Stormont as an alternate, and David Benedict, South Stormont as an alternate.
Go ahead.
So as you know, through the Municipal Elections Act, every term of council is required to appoint a compliance audit committee. After the election, every candidate is required to complete a financial statement, and anyone who is an elector or is able to vote in the municipality can appeal a candidate's finances. So the requirement to have a compliance audit committee to review the financial and the appeal. So what we've done historically is the SD&G Clerks Group have compiled a group together. I think in the past, after the 2018 election, it was used once. So knock on wood, hopefully we don't need to use it, but it is a requirement to have a compliance audit committee appointed. So over the next few months, we're just kind of trying to get the election requirements in check. So we would, in accordance with the SD&G Clerks Group, recommend that we appoint these 4 individuals and adopt the terms of reference.
Okay, any comments, questions, concerns from any member of council for this? Seeing none, all heard the motion, those in favor, opposed if any, motion carries. Move on to bylaws, 2022-77, policy 7-6, bulk water sale.
Moved by Councillor Mellon, seconded by Councillor Wells, that bylaw number 2022-77, being a bylaw to adopt policy number 7-6, bulk water sale, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Go ahead.
So at the last meeting, the manager of water and wastewater, Dennis, presented the draft policy to council, and there was unanimous approval at that time. So we have went ahead and notified all the current users of the bulk water system of the impeding policy and have asked them to complete a registration form, which they have started to do in compliance with the new policy. Now, the only thing that we discussed today, Tara brought it up, and it's not currently included in the policy, is whether council has any interest in requiring the users to provide the municipality with a proof of insurance.
What's the opinion of staff? Go ahead.
If I look at any liability as far as damage to infrastructure, I think it would probably be in the best interest to have municipal insurance provided like they do with any other project on municipal property. If council's comfortable even with a $2 million rather than the $5 million, which is the standard, we can discuss that. But we can definitely go back to the users and find out if there's any concerns or issues that would prevent them from doing that.
Okay, so to add this tonight, you can add it as a minor addition or major addition, or?
We would propose to add a minor addition into the procedures that upon completion of the registration form, that we would make that a requirement pending their input.
Okay, Council Wells?
I just, like when they're filling, when they come bring their tankers, is it one of our staff that fills it?
No.
They fill their own. Well, then, if they fill their own, I think I would recommend to have something there, because if they leave it on or something, and, yeah, I would definitely add it. And 2 million is probably good, I would think.
Council Mellon?
Yeah, I gotta agree with Councilor Wells and probably what staff are saying. I'm just thinking, would that have to be a separate policy, or would that be under their own truck, their trailer, like, would that, I don't know if that would be covered under their own, like, do they got insurance on their truck and trailer? This would be above and beyond this, or I don't know if that can be incorporated in, I'm not sure.
They may have their own. I know that when the business I do of hauling grain, I have a separate policy that covers these kind of incidences.
Yeah.
It's not part of your liability because it's not, you're on the road anymore, you're doing something different, you're on private property, and if you damage that private property, it's not part of your automobile or commercial there, it's a separate policy.
Yeah. Make
More than
sure,
likely I already have it, but
make sure it's the right policy. Yeah.
Council Lewis?
Well, I think it's only fitting that they have at least a 2 million. You know, if they come in on our property and they smash something, that means we're liable. We gotta come good with the money. So, no, I think that should be in there.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Okay, so you can, go ahead.
It's, what you need to do too, it's all right, okay, they'll show you the policy, but what you should do is make sure when they do from their insurance, that the municipality of South Dundas is on there. You just don't see their policy, you gotta make sure we're on there, listed.
Go ahead.
So as our current practice is, we usually have them add us as an additional insurer.
Yep.
We keep a copy of it annually, and then we follow up with them annually on a new certificate of
Yep,
insurance.
I just,
Yep, yep.
I knew it was probably gonna be there, but I just wanted to make sure.
Okay. Anything else on it? All heard in motion, those in favor, opposed, nay, motion carries. Next one, 2022-78, landfill fees and hours of operation.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gardner, seconded by Councillor Lewis, that bylaw number 2022-78, being a bylaw to set fees and hours of operation for the municipality's landfill, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Go ahead.
So the bylaw being presented to you tonight is the final version of Mr. Watt's compilation of the various fees and hours of operations that were proposed and unanimously supported by council at the June 13th meeting. There have been no changes made, so this is the final version.
Okay. Any further comments, questions, concerns on this? We've got this one, as Councillor Mellon so aptly say, we beat her to death.
It's been around the table more than once.
Okay. If there's nothing, then you all heard the motion, those in favor, opposed if any, motion carries. I will make this comment, since we're talking about landfills, and maybe it's not the right spot, and I don't expect council to comment on it, but I'm rather disturbed that there are some residents in our municipality, and maybe they're from Village Morrisburg, maybe they're not, that decide that they can throw their garbage and compost material at our municipal garage on Allison Street. Those who are doing it, if they're listening, or even part of what's going to be reported in the paper, if kindly refrain from doing so, please do so. This council has done a lot of work to try to remedy the compost situation in South Dundas, and maybe your hours don't work, but as I've said many times, our Matilda site will now be open more than it was before. That's our expectation. Please do so. Moving on, 2022-79 site plan control.
Moved by Councillor Mellon, seconded by Councillor Wells, that bylaw number 2022-79, being a bylaw to repeal bylaw number 2021-46 and designate the municipality of South Dundas as a site plan control area, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Go ahead.
So at the June 13th meeting, the county planner, Peter Young, was in attendance and provided council with an overview of Bill 109 updates as it relates to site plan approval and delegation of authority to staff as of July 1st. So the proposed bylaw is updating that, and at that meeting, Councillor Wells had also discussed parameters around surety bonds and providing different avenues. So we have updated a section in the site plan control 13.7, which authorizes the CAO in consultation with the treasurer that they may approve the use of a pre-servicing agreement, a surety bond, or other instrument that secures the performance of the obligations set out in the site plan agreement. So that kind of paraphrases the ability under Bill 109 to provide staff some leeway that if, with respect to a deposit, if there are other alternates required. Other than that, there are no changes other than to what Planner Young provided council.
Okay, Councillor Wells.
I seen it in there, it's good. It's just at the end of the day, the people that wants to invest in that, it's just, they're not tying up cash flow, like, it's the proper thing to do, so we're offering different things, so it just gives them options, and good options at that.
Anything further, Councillor Mellon?
Drive on.
Councillor
Nope,
Lewis?
nothing.
Deputy Mayor?
Nope.
All heard the motion, those in favor, opposed if any, motion carries. (2022-80) open air burn.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gardner, seconded by Councillor Lewis, that bylaw number 2022-80, being a bylaw to prescribe the precautions and conditions under which fires may be set in open air, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed.
Assume you're on this one too?
I am,
'Cause
Chief
I haven't got
Morehouse.
down to that level, so go ahead.
Yeah. Chief Morehouse sends his regrets this evening. He has a special training session with his officers tonight, so I kindly agreed to take this forward. So at the June 13th meeting, he provided an update to council with respect to activation, extension of activation for fire permits, and council at the time agreed that they would like to see it move from 7 to 14 days effective July 1st, 2022. So the bylaw being presented to you tonight reflects that change.
Okay, any comments, questions, concerns? All heard the motion, those in favor, opposed if any, motion carries. Next one is 2022-81 Site Plan Control, Iroquois Gas Bar Limited, 10783 County Road 2.
Moved by Councillor Lewis, seconded by Deputy Mayor Gardner, that bylaw number 2022-81, being a bylaw to enter into a site plan control agreement with Iroquois Gas Bar Limited for new development, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed. We do have Planner Young on Zoom
Okay. Okay, welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Following Council's direction and a deferral of this site plan application for a mixed-use apartment building in Iroquois, we worked with the County Engineering Department, the Roads Department in South Dundas, and looked at some of Council's direction to look at requiring a pedestrian crossover. Now, with Mike at the counties, we looked at the pedestrian crossing standards, which have certain setbacks from intersections. So based on those standards, which are similar to the MTO standards, a more ideal location would be at the intersection of County Road 2 and Elizabeth. Because of those setbacks, a lot of them would be 200 meters, which presented a challenge for this one in particular. The other thing that we looked at is that based on their development plan and traffic study, we didn't feel that there was the projected pedestrian volumes to make a requirement that one developer pay for this. So it'd be something more funded like more through development charges or municipal tax dollars. However, we have got the proponent to agree to construct a sidewalk along the County Road 2 frontage. That will be able to connect to a future crossing and future sidewalks on adjacent properties. So, you know, as Tim Hortons, they have quite a large site there. So as that gets developed over time and sites to the west as well, we'll be able to create a more fulsome pedestrian crossing and hopefully in the future, council could consider budgeting for the crossing at County Road 2 in Elizabeth, or doing a study working with the counties on the best spot at that intersection.
Okay, question, Peter, before I turn to the council. The sidewalk that the proponent has agreed to, is it only going to be in front of the new site, or does it include the current Iroquois gas bar site as well?
It would only be in front of their frontage. That's kind of under the site plan control conditions and authority under the Planning Act. We couldn't make them go all the way down to Elizabeth Street. That would be something more from the other site plans or funded through development charges, but it has to be related to the development and this is a pretty standard condition to require them to construct the frontage there. But we understand that hopefully some of the other properties will be up for redevelopment in the future. So we'd expect to have that condition for those site plans and to make that connection.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Gardner, comments, questions, concerns?
No, this is, a good discussion was had, so now we kind of know for future big things like a Tim Hortons and stuff, and I appreciate the willingness of the developer to work with us and have that sidewalk, because it's a piece of the puzzle, so I am good with this, Mayor.
Councilor Lewis?
No, I'm happy with your work and your answers to our questions, so I'm satisfied, thank you.
Councilor Mellon?
Good compromise, drive on.
Councilor Wells?
No questions.
Okay. I guess there's two things. I guess a few lessons learned by us as council and where we need to go with this. It's going to cost somebody some dollars down the road. We don't have to much charge in South Dundas, as you are fully aware. So decision made in the past. Not sure if we should change that in the future. This council is not going to make that decision, but maybe that's something to look forward to if we continue to expand. It's certainly going to cost some dollars, but in the end, at least we have some recognition of an issue there that needs to be dealt with. Nothing further from any member of council. All heard the motion. Those in favor, opposed if any, motion carries. Thank you, Peter, for coming on.
Thank you, Council.
Consent agenda, please.
Moved by Councillor Lewis, seconded by Councillor Mellon, that all items listed under general consent section of the agenda be adopted as presented, save and except for items 8A, C, and G to be moved to discussion.
So the remainder of the consent agenda tonight is, there's a key information report on drainage update. We have a key information report on Friends for the Life Bike Rally request. We have the donation asked for the manor that we annually do from the foundation. We have a letter from the warden concerning transportation plan of Eastern Ontario, which failed miserably. And we also have a request from the town of East Gwillimbury concerning Bill 109 and South Nation Conservation letting us know concerning environmental impact statement guidelines. All heard the motion. Those in favor? Opposed, if any, motion carries. I'm going to call for a 10-minute break now. And we'll resume at 7:05 or so. Okay, and welcome back to our meeting. We're moving on to 9 boards, committees, and discussion items. First one is county council, and I apologize to the residents of South Dundas. I could not make county council this past Monday, a week ago. Deputy Mayor will
Ooh, okay.
present a small
My
report on it.
Yeah, it might not be as good as yours, but I'll give it a shot.
That's okay.
We had a ceremony to recognize retirements and long-term service awards. As far as the rest of the agenda, just looking here. Lots of regular business, like the appointment of the weed inspector, renewal of corporate insurance policies. We did have the announcement that the CAO is retiring. Let's see. We did talk about the surplus and transportation services projects update. I don't think any of it really impacts our general South Dundas area, but that was a nice addition, just to kind of give us where everything is at. So I thought that was good. We do have staff and volunteers working on butterfly habitat project on County Road 31. And we did have the regional waste management communication strategy. Much discussion. There were council members that were not overly thrilled that it's taken as long as it has. Quite a few of us spoke to the fact that we weren't pleased with the timelines, how slow it is to roll out. We have been assured that it will be coming very shortly. There was just a lot of discussion about it. People were not overly thrilled, but we're nearing our term, and it's taken a long time. I do believe the staff got the message loud and clear, but we'll see how long they take, and that was pretty much it.
Thank you for that, Deputy Mayor. I will make a comment on the waste management study. If I had been at the meeting, I would explain my disappointment in how long it's taken and to bring it, not even have it brought forward yet, and this term of council is coming rapidly to an end. Certainly did not make myself happy, considering that we were one of the municipalities that could have benefited from a good effort in looking at what we can do jointly on waste management. But anyway, we'll keep the feet to the fire and see where we go from here. Cemetery Board?
No meetings,
Iroquois District Business Group did have a meeting. I did not attend. But they are having an event on Thursday announcing quite a bit of stuff, so anybody can make it there after for 12 to 1 o'clock. They'll certainly welcome you there. Morrisburg BIA.
On last Tuesday, June 21st, we had a 3-hour seminar with Eric Lockhart here at the municipal office. 7 of the BIA members showed up, along with a guest, Cindy All-Peters. We talked about ideas. The committee came up with 74 ideas, believe it or not. So when Eric put it all together, he came up with the top 5 that the committee should try to do within 18 months. And then we had a discussion between the BIA and the Chamber of working together because the Chamber, they are losing their coordinator. So the two committees are going to work together on one coordinator to do both sides. And that pretty well did the end of the meeting. Shannon, do you have anything to add?
I think the only thing I'll add is that it was nice to see a progressive BIA providing some direction and input on short-term and long-term goals, and I think there's a lot of ideas. Eric was quite surprised on how many ideas came through the session, but a lot of it was practical and stuff that could be realized relatively quickly than 4, 5, 6 years down the road.
Sounds good. I like it. They got some direction now.
Yep.
Any comments from members? Go ahead, Council Wells.
I Counselor Lewis, I had a business owner come up and discuss about how to go about finding out about the land, or the islands out there. If the BIA is gonna do any flowers to them, like if you look up in Iroquois and you drive into Morrisburg right now, like that, like it looks awful. So I don't know if the BIA has any intentions of doing something there, because something's gotta be done. If not, like, I would, as a counselor, would ask council to direct staff to do something to get that up to par.
Well, that was one of the ideas that come to the table. But I'm not sure if it was one of the top 5, but I think some of the businesses, they were gonna go ahead with the summer students from the chamber, and they were gonna do something with those islands.
Like, we're getting into July now, like,
Yep.
it was like that last year too. Now, mind you, we all know the issues we've had with the BIA, but just hopefully moving forward, something gets done there, because
Well, and the
it
chamber did.
it doesn't make our part look nice there.
No, but the chamber students, they were out there cleaning the islands last year, late in the year. I will have to
Well,
say
maybe they
that.
should be taught a little bit how to clean
Well,
then. Just saying.
They're only teenagers.
Okay, CEO.
Just one thing I can add is looking at the initial draft report, it is actually one of their top items is to look at something similar to Iroquois, as having businesses sponsor an island and maintaining that. So that's on their top.
Because Iroquois looks
Yep.
like it's top notch.
So that's on one of their short-term lists to be done this year.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's all I have.
okay. I know the BIA has floundered and now they've got their footing, that's great. I think, that example of Iroquois certainly is predominant. I don't think we as municipality should be responsible for that. BIA is there for a reason. I think that gives them something to do, because the more we do, the less they will do. So they've got money, let them do some things like that and drive on. Yeah, it doesn't look good overall on South Dundas. However, there has to be recognition that, the BIA is there for a reason, and that's one of them. They do. You look at downtown Brockville, and 90% of the work that happens there is not the city, it's the BIA spending some dollars to keep them alive, so. Okay, anything else? Thank you. South Nation Conservation?
No, due to a previous commitment and scheduling difficulties, I wasn't at the last meeting that they had in June, Mayor Bivels. Then there's no meeting scheduled in July. Unless it requires an emergency meeting coming up, but, the only other thing I gotta say is that we're reminded of, the director's discretionary fund, which is $300 that, director can, direct to a group or organization. I've asked for my $300 be split between Iroquois and the Morrisburg Waterfront committees for the work along the waterfront, but other than that, the next meeting will be in August.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for sending that
Not
money
my
that
money.
direction.
Well, just-
I understand.
We're just making
It was there when I was there, and most of that money I sent to Two Creeks, because at that time it was more in the development phase than it is now, so. Morrisburg Waterfront,
We covered the discussion.
Iroquois Waterfront's tomorrow night, South Branch,
Waiting for the follow-up meeting, haven't heard anything.
Carmen House, nothing, Dundas County Archives, nothing, Tourism Advisory,
Yeah, we had the relaunch of the Tourism Pursuit app on June 15th at the college in Cornwall, with 5 new locations added. So Grand Trunk, Carmen House, Russell Manor B&B, Winchester Springs Sanatorium Mural, and Reikis have been added. So it was nice to see the students and the college. It's a great partnership, so it was a nice event.
that's
And we
good.
have Theodore Tugboat coming on July 2nd. So
Yeah, it was well advertised in the Standard Freeholder, so that coverage helps a lot in getting it out there, and you hear of some of the younger people wanting to get them all, which means someone's driving around or they're driving around, so it's the future, as we say. right?
we've heard feedback from that tourism app that various locations have noticed that it is driving different customers to them. which is nice to hear.
Yeah,
So,
Dents has made that comment
Yes,
in the
they did.
paper, so
Yeah.
I did read that,
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah.
good. It's good. Comment?
Yeah, a week or so ago, there was, on the news, they were talking about Theodore coming to Kingston, and I was sitting there sort of on the edge of my chair waiting for him to
Yeah.
say Morrisburg. I don't know if it's too late for Rob or.
it's been heavily publicized, like, get ready, it's gonna be a very busy location
Yeah.
down. We're probably gonna receive some people that might not be overly thrilled how busy it is, but I believe it's heavily publicized. I mean, our tourism Facebook page now has 4,000 people, and the majority of them are on there because of stuff like Theodore talked about. The one thing to note though is, it's actually stopping and staying, so people can go on it. It's not like last year where it was a freebie watching it go by. This year, folks can actually go and see it.
And I think it's great, if anybody from Ottawa wanted to go see the thing, it's a whole lot closer to
Yeah.
come out to Morrisburg than it is to go to Kingston.
They
so-
publicize on their Facebook page as well,
Good,
right?
well, good,
So,
yeah.
Okay, anything else? Yep,
Nope,
no?
Theodore is
Councilor.
coming on
July 2nd. 3rd, is it 3rd?
I was gonna say, the
Why
sign
did I
out
think
the
it was
dock
second?
says July 3rd.
Okay,
And
well,
then
so
they're
technically he is
The
here
full
the
day on the
2nd.
3rd.
Yeah, and leaving the 4th.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
was
That's
just
what I
wondering
read.
because the sign down there says July 3rd.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
which
that's
is-
when you
That's the
can
full
go,
day.
yeah.
That's when everything is shut
Yeah.
down there
Yeah.
for sure.
I just wanted to make sure, I didn't want people to get there on June 2nd, nobody there.
Economic
July 2nd.
development,
We will be meeting, I'm not sure, but to determine the winners of the awards.
Dr. Advisory.
Nothing?
Okay, going down to key information reporting and elimination of vacancy task. Lachlan?
Yes, and thank you. So this information has been bandied about the local treasurers for some time. And it used to be a county decision whether or not vacancy rebates could be eliminated. And I think there was also a requirement to do something with the province, but now it rests solely within the municipalities themselves and the councils of the day. I wanted to put it in front of you to see if this is something that interests you. About 1 to 7 properties do get this vacancy rebate, and what it is if your property is not just like truly vacant, not just holding storage, but like an empty shell, you can apply for a 30% rebate on your taxes. It disincentivizes productive use would be the reason why I want to bring it in front of you. I know that in speaking with Mrs. McMillan, your full-time treasurer, she would also be in favor of this. At the lower tier level, we had one treasurer who, until this decision was made that we can do it individually, what was kind of the holdout that way. I believe North Glengarry has eliminated their vacancy rebate. The city of Cornwall has also. So I was just looking to see if this is something that the Council of South Dundas wanted to look into seriously. So I put everything together so you could look at what it would look like. And there were dollar values included in that report. And those would then become taxation as they wouldn't be rebated back to the vacant landowners.
Council Wells, comments, questions, concerns?
Well, yeah, I would like to see something like this, just because I own a little bit of commercial property and stuff, so and be fair to anyone else, if you have a building you're not using, like you shouldn't be paying full shot, so I would entertain this myself.
Okay, so you entertain, right now we have it, we're taking it away.
Okay, I misunderstood that one.
It's been, it's been around for a number of years. County
Okay,
treasurer
I read-
has hated
okay.
it forever. The previous one, the current one learned well from the previous. So we're foregoing how much a year recently?
There was one year at 15,000. I'll just bring it up. I think it's in the staff report there.
Last year was only 2,200.
Yep.
Year before was 13 grand.
Okay,
So,
I read
yeah, so
this.
if you have a partially vacant building, you can apply for this rebate. If we say no more,
No,
it will encourage you to think about what you want to do with a piece of property instead of, oh, I'll get money back anyway, I don't care. Go ahead, Lachlan.
It would just have to be fully vacant. It's a partial, I don't think they give it for partial vacancies, if I recall correctly. They generally have to.
Full vacant.
Full vacancy, just,
Okay, so you want to change your tune now? You want me to drive on, you can think about it?
Yeah, just let me yeah,
Okay, Council Mellon.
go on.
Yeah, right now, they would have to apply, and then how do we find out if they start using it again? We'd have to inspect it and make,
Go ahead.
Yeah, so in the past, what we've done is when they apply for the vacancy, we go and verify that it actually is vacant before we approve it.
but then when they reuse it, bring
It's
somebody in.
it's retroactive.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I'd go with option one.
Council Lewis?
I don't know, I think if you got a building on a lot, it don't make if you got somebody in it or not in it, you should have to pay the tax on it. That's how I feel.
Well, I think the combination of having staff time, plus having incentive programs that counteract trying to get those buildings not to be vacant. I think you want to build a community that has that willingness to build and invest and stuff like that. And I think we're doing poor service if we have an incentive to not develop the building, but then we're putting all this money into incentivizing people doing making the buildings better looking and all that stuff. So I would go with option one.
Okay. I got this sorted out now.
Okay.
As sitting on council.
That's where you are, you're sitting on council.
So I'm disregarding what I own.
Yeah,
I would go with option one too.
okay.
And the rest of the story, no one needs to hear anyways, because it would be just what it is, so.
Okay, your fiduciary duty tonight, Councilor Wells, is to South Dundas.
I'm being a counselor tonight.
Okay,
We'll leave the business person go tonight.
okay. I'm good with option one. I know that it's a challenge. I don't like, I can understand the reasoning behind it to a point, but it takes that incentive away of doing something with it. And, there were some years it cost us enough money. I know when Vanessa Bennett was the county treasurer, she just hated coming to council with this number because it just drove her nuts. And she liked every penny she can bring in the county coffers one way or the other, and this is one we lost money on, so yeah. However, we won't be bringing the bylaw tonight. It says June 27th, so that'll be for our next meeting in July. Okay, so that's direction. Thanks. Next one, key information report on draft land lease agreement with the Iroquois Lawn Bowling Club. And this was postponed from the last meeting. Welcome back. Who's running this? I know there's two-parter to it. There's
Yep.
the agreement plus some of the challenges with the donation policy.
So I can speak a little bit to it, Mayor, and then David can fill in anything that I've missed out. So as council will recall, Mr. Beaupre did come back to council earlier this year with a proposal on building a shed to store their current equipment and materials. At that meeting, he did indicate that he was not looking for money from council, that he had a donor that would be taking care of the construction and the funding of the storage shed. So what staff have done, our clerk and our manager of facilities and myself, is we did meet with Ron Beaupre and Mr. Ross, who's making the donation, in regards to the logistics of the project, who will be running the project, how the donations will come through. And in front of council tonight is a draft lease agreement. The one thing I will reference to council, and it is outlined in the report, is, and looking for direction from council, is under our donation policy 1-15. There is a section in our donation policy that reads that when the donor has directed the funds to a specific person, family, or business, no tax receipt will be issued. So these are guidelines that have been developed in context to the CRA. I know council in the past has looked at waiving those policies, but for tonight's direction for council is we're looking to see if council wants to do the same. I believe it's the intention of Mr. Ross is that he has contractors lined up to do the work, wants to manage the project, and then in turn, the municipality provide a donation receipt. So looking for some direction on that and some direction on the agreement itself from council tonight. I don't know if David wants to add anything further on that.
I don't have too much to add. The other thing that we did discuss with Mr. Ross and Mr. Beaupre was about the municipal procurement policy as well. As Shannon has alluded to, we wouldn't be managing the project, so we'd be sort of, as much as the funds would be going through us, we'll sort of be going around our procurement policy as well. But that's all I have to add.
Okay. I know we've played a little loose and goosey at times with both those policies, but procurement policy is a must within municipal act, so we need to be cautious on that. And having a donation policy constructed around CRA rules is pretty important, and I would really caution council on that one as well. Deputy Mayor, comments, questions, concerns?
This is a tricky one. I mean, I've actually looked at the form for something else to get nonprofit status and how you have to jump through so many hoops. What's the ramification if we got in hot water with CRA?
So through you, Mayor, to Deputy Mayor Gardner. So there is municipalities across Ontario that have had their charitable registration number taken away, where they're no longer able to issue donation receipts for community betterments or municipal property betterments.
So if we look at the projects that we have done, we've got the monument project, we've got other projects. We're actually putting those projects at risk.
Correct.
By skirting the rules. So while I continue to absolutely be so grateful for the generosity, I'm a little bit challenged in risking those other projects. I mean, our hands would be tied. It would mean we wouldn't be able to partner with any other community project for probably a long time. They probably put you in the jail for what, a couple of years, and then you have to reapply. Like, I don't know. Do we know if they take the status away permanently?
I don't know if they take it away permanently, but I know there is a period of time that they would take it away, and then there's a process that you have to follow to get reinstated.
Yeah. And we also have other groups that we have basically forced their hand. I'm thinking of the Forward House, that have had to go through that fairly onerous process, and it is onerous to obtain charitable status because they cannot go through us. They have to go through and get a charitable status so that they can manage their projects. So I'll wait to see what my counterparts say, but I am worried at putting that at risk, because if we lost it, none of our community partners could do too much. And that would be horrendous. So.
Councilor Lewis.
We've been down this road before, you know. I'm not about to lose any of our rights. And if Mr. Ross has somebody lined up that he wants to do the job, all they have to do is put a price in. And to give him a thing for his charitable donation, we've been down that road too. And the last time it come up, we said no. Because he went ahead and did something that he wasn't supposed to do. And then he wanted us to take pity and pay him. So I'm saying, no, we do it by the rules and regulations. And if you don't like the rules and regulations, well, that's too bad. And that's where I'll leave it.
Councilman Mallon?
Yeah. If the money goes through us, they can get the HST rebate. That's not affected by this. It's just a charitable donation part, charitable portion, tax receipt. I don't care if we have an outside individual wanting or group wanting to pay, and it's gonna cost nothing to the municipality as far as tax dollars wise, I have no problem with them using their own, whoever they want to use. It's not costing us anything, it's not coming out of taxpayers' pockets. So I would go, but if it's gonna jeopardize our charitable status, donation status, whatever you wanna call that, and that's a tricky one. I could see maybe we should just allow for the HST rebate, even though he's paying for the shot. But as far as the charitable donation, I don't want to risk that status, I guess, if there is a chance that it could be risk, it could be in jeopardy. Hot, our hands slapped, fingers wrapped, whatever. Okay.
Council Wells?
I got a different opinion. I have no problem giving him the charitable donation for tax receipt. This council, we've done it in the past quite a few times, to be honest. So there's a resident that he's gave to this community over and over and over and over. As far as getting their own people, Councilor Mellon, I agree with you. There's let them do the thing. They're building their building. It's adding to our infrastructure. The building's up there is pretty much done. So I absolutely I'm good with this as far as I'm concerned. I think we're just thinking as far as the CRA. I'm all for giving them a tax thing.
Well, I will make the comment that we have kind of skirted our policy in the past. However, now the policy is sitting in front of us, and it's basically in a public document looking at us in a meeting. Makes it a bit more challenging to kind of skirt around things. I think, donations are donations are donations. I just made a donation today, and this is not to make anybody else feel bad, but there's a humanitarian crisis in the world when it comes to food and people starving in other places, and I decided and the government was matching it, so I put my money down on the table. And I don't expect nothing back from that except for the tax receipt, but I'm not directing them where they're going to spend the money or how they're going to spend the money. I'm quite comfortable that this entity will put the vast majority of that money to good use. And I do check my charities out, and some of them are, the ones that send stuff around have been blacklisted on mine. But anyway, I understand that Mr. Ross has done a lot of work in this community, has had donation receipts in the past, but he's not, yes, he is doing it for us, but he's doing it for a separate group. We wouldn't build that building if it wasn't for the Iroquois Lawn Bowling Club. Why would we do that? We do have a building on the project on the paper that we've done yet, which is the garage storage shed for the campground. But this is different, and this may play into it. However, there's ways we should do things right. And even on the campground building where Mr. Ross put a lot of money in the end, we ran the show. He was technically a project manager, but we are project engineers, ran the show, and in the end, we got what we asked to do. The airport project, if he hadn't put the money down, then none of that would have happened, I suspect, because there might be some challenging discussions of whether we need an airport in South Dundas. However, you know, there's two ways of looking at it. If it's going to be our building, and if we do it right and do it by our procurement policy, then he puts the money on the table, we'll give him a receipt, we'll get the building done. We'll even use his plans. If he wants to run the show, that's a different story. Wants to run the show, then go ahead, spend your money, build the building. It's ours in the end, but you are expecting something for your money, and that's where I would be challenging the CRA. And if you need to get an official opinion from somebody who's worked with CRA, I can find you one, and we'll see what it goes. But why? We've done a lot of projects in the past that have benefited this community because people put their hard-earned dollars into them without telling us how to do it. We gotta start being a lot more cautious going down the road. Deputy Mayor?
Well, I think my issue with this is this time there's a third party involved, right? Like, is that not the issue where you've got the lawn bowling club, then Mr. Ross, and then us? So in the past, we could do it easier because it was Mr. Ross and us, right? It was like a direct thing. Now you're skirting that, and that's what's going to get us into trouble. Is we're going, is there a possible workaround to get the building up, to get it donated? Like, is there, what's the possible workaround?
I think to the mayor's point is if the donation was directed to the municipality with the intention of utilizing the plans that were already developed, going through our procurement policy, the municipality managing the project in consultation with Mr. Ross, then that would qualify, and I'll let the treasurer and maybe deputy treasurer answer that. That would be better than allowing, as per our policy, is they give us a donation and they run the full thing. We don't follow procurement policy, all that stuff. So it's following our own policies.
Yeah. So there's two issues, right? There's the donation and then there's procurement. Like, there's two separate issues. I too, I mean, I recognize the generosity in building things that we wouldn't normally have the pocketbook to do. I'm just hoping that there's some way we can do it, and if there's not, then, I mean, two major policies being broken is kind of not good.
Through Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, go ahead.
The procurement policy does allow, at council's discretion, for us to sole source any project. Just wanted to put that out there. So similar to what we did with Taylor Road Bridge, is council approved us to sole source the bridge procurement. So this could be,
Yeah.
council can approve sole sourcing.
So is there a way that we could do the donation is to us instead of the lawn bowling club directly? So then we're not risking the CRA issue, and then just an agreement for sole sourcing?
I believe if the donation goes to the lawn bowling club, they cannot issue donation receipts.
That's what I mean. Have the donation go directly to us.
And that would be the intention if we have to still comply with the policy itself though, right?
Yeah.
So with the donation, for any donation to be issued or donation receipt has to flow through the municipal bank account, regardless. Campground did the same thing, all that stuff. I think we're in contravention of the policy is if the person making the donation is directing on where that money is going to as far as a contractor, that's where it says in our policies that we cannot issue a donation receipt.
So we cannot, so the donation policy is contradicting our procurement policy that has a way out.
Correct.
So why is that?
No, you're absolutely right. If we can,
Because this is a unique situation.
Okay.
Right.
What other municipality has this kind of situation stuck at them?
Yeah.
Besides Ottawa with
Yeah.
Lansdowne, and that's a whole
Yeah.
big business thing that's totally different.
I'd like to see if we can do it so it's a direct donation, and then for me, working that where it says in our procurement policy that we can sole source, I think that's a halfway mark where we're, you know, like I think we can work on it.
Okay, so
Maybe.
here's my question back
Maybe.
to staff. Is there a single contractor that can do all the work, top to bottom? site layout, whole 9 yards, a GC per se. Or is John Ross the GC? No, Council Wells, I know you're getting excited over there, but I'm just putting it on the table and,
Yeah, there are contractors who could,
no, what does John have in his mind of who's doing the work and how is it all gonna evolve?
he has different contractors. He has some of it being done by the Lawn Bowling Association group itself. There's various people involved. There's
So who's directing them all?
Mr. Ross.
Okay, that's all I need to say. Anything further?
No.
Your turn is coming, Councilor Wells.
If, I haven't got a problem, if the money could just come through us, and we oversee the project, and it could be sole source, because we can sole source it if we want, but it would have to be one contractor. Right? One contractor, well, I guess you could do several contractors on, you know. If Mr. Ross is willing to give us the money and we look after it through our department and we sole source it out in conjunction with, in conversation with Mr. Ross as to a possible contractor that would be eligible or good for the job. Creative bookkeeping. Good thing Jamie isn't here.
It's all up
Yeah, I
there
know.
now. Go ahead.
Okay, I can put things in perspective as far as what we're talking about, contractors and all that. We're talking a garden shed here. What is it, 10 by 30, 300 square feet or whatever it is. He could go and buy an Amish shed and have it put there. Like it's barely even qualifies for a building permit. We're making an issue over, and I do respect about the CRA and all that stuff, but literally, Ron and them, a lot of them, there won't be a contractor. They're gonna do 90% of the work themselves. Like I already talked to Ron and that, it's, the bowling club's gonna be, like, you're building a 10 by 30 shed. Like it's not, you're not building a campground building, put it that way. And I just think, my opinion, we, if you wanna put the money through us, or, but as far as giving a donation, I'm still taking that route and just put what the building is. It's just a little garden shed for a club to put some lawnmower in.
Go ahead.
To your point, I don't want to risk our CRA for a garden shed. That's the issue. So if we can do it, however we do it for the garden shed, I don't care. But I just want to make sure that the CRA, our ability to give tax receipts is protected. Impacts everything. It would impact, you know, everything. Donations, trees, benches, the whole thing.
Anything further, Council Lewis?
No.
Council Mellon?
I'm going to jump in there regarding on this one, if we can do it somehow.
Okay, so it's kind of muddled around.
Yeah, I know.
Would the staff have direction here? I'm just asking, because you can see council's kind of
Yeah.
split a bit, but
What I can maybe do is we can sit down with the John Ross and Ron and kind of figure out maybe a different plan of how we can capture what's being said by council and still follow the CRA rules. You know, if I look at sole sourcing has to meet certain criteria, right? As far as where we're sole sourcing, is it the best interest of the municipality? Could be argued maybe. Is it better value for money? Sole sourcing it to the contractor could be. So we can look at some of that stuff and we'll discuss it with our finance department as well too, because ultimately at the end of the day, they need to be comfortable because they're the ones signing off on that donation receipt.
okay. So you're coming back the next meeting with something?
Yep.
and So when you come back, making an action request so council can basically
Absolutely.
vote it up and down,
Yep.
please and thank you.
Okay.
You've got some direction here.
Absolutely.
I will make this final comment, that we have a rink shack in Iroquois that was built by donors. There was no taxation receipt given on any of that. So because they weren't asked for. Okay, moving on. Civic addresses. Council Wells, you brought that issue to the forefront, so
So, I just wanted to bring the council's attention. I had a landowner that had a resident lot. And they're in the process of building a house, so doing all their planning for everything. And the very first hurdle they had was the excavation company. Once they found out they didn't have a civic number, he wouldn't let his men go there and do the work because based on employee safety, that if someone got hurt, there's no civic address for them to go to. Which you put things in perspective, like with the Emily project, it's the same idea, but it was farmland. Where this is just someone that has a residential lot that I think if we change it that, you put parameters in there that just because you have a number doesn't mean you can put garbage there, but when someone buys we can start off with residential, buys a piece of property, they can apply to get their civic number right away before a structure is going, before a building permit's issued or whatever. It could be as easy as soon as they apply for their entry permit, they can apply for their civic number right away to access their property. So it's just, I never thought about it before, and it was just one resident brought it up to me, just told me her struggles to, they lost their contractor just because of that fact. And the Ministry of Labor, there's a thing in there too about like 911 calls and all that, and the law that's saying like people can refuse to whatever. So I just want to bring the council's attention and see what everyone wants to say about it.
okay, so Jeff, you are the key person on this according to the bylaw, so can you enlighten council on how one gets a civic number on their piece of property?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, it's two parts. One is the Emily number that we fall within for the ag community, people farming, doing whatever it needs to follow those parameters. And the second requirement is it normally falls under the building code. So the building official normally sends me an application sheet which says, can you please issue a civic number to this address because of these criteria, requirements. We normally don't go out and issue a civic number just because a person wants a civic number. Problem with that is once you issue the civic number, they got free range. They can then call hydro and they can get a hydro hookup to that lot because the civic number is there in place. There's no following up, as Councillor Wells says, that we can just follow up and make sure that nobody does anything on the lot. Not enough staff to do something like that. We'd be driving in circles all the time looking to see, well, a civic number's there, what are they going to do with it? An entrance, yes, we can grant an entrance because they might want to go in and clean up the lot, and that's fully permissible. And anytime somebody calls me about an entrance, I direct them to the building department. Are you planning on building a house? Yes, no, talk to the building department first. If they give you the clearance, well then good, come see me. As far as the civic number goes, it's a touchy subject when it comes to once you issue that civic number, that's their civic number. And then they got free range to do whatever they feel fit with that civic number. So I've been here since 2015. I don't think I could count on one hand the amount of people who have asked me just for a civic number because normally it falls within the building code side of things.
Go ahead, Councillor Wells.
So anyways, going to what you just said, as far as, how can I put it? The building department. If a person is working there, like I'm just saying, like you said, even if we do amend this bylaw, it's something that might never even be requested. It's just, like you were saying about hydro and stuff, well, hydro can't, we still have reins on it because Hydro actually won't put a service in unless there a foundation's there, just to let you know. They don't even do a layout unless there's a foundation. And furthermore, too, people, the way I look at it, you have an acre land or whatever, you have a roll number. You're paying taxes on that property already, so why not have a civic number? And like where this case for the person wouldn't go there because he couldn't make sure his employees were safe would be one reason, the only reason to actually amend this bylaw. So, like I said, down the road, is anyone going to use it? Probably not, but I mean, it's just something that's there in this case where it might only be one case, but I think if someone has a roll number and they're paying taxes on the property and they want to have someone come there, they should be able to know how to get there. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Council Mellon, thoughts?
Well, I gotta sort of agree, like, I mean, if you're paying taxes on a lot or a piece of land, and I mean, maybe, you know, if it's an issue, you can't get you want your entranceway in there, you may wanna, just play around in there, cut trees or clear it out. I would put it in there that they can apply for a civic number on its own. But leave the fact that most of them will be coming in under the building department. I don't see a big issue with selling, because basically that's what it'll be. I mean, it's included in the price of the building permit right now, the civic number, right? Basically, so they want to buy it, sort of like Project Emily, you want to put a farm sign up on your field entranceway, I don't see an issue with it. Personally, that's mine. I'm good with it.
Council Lewis?
I don't see an issue with giving a civic number. Like, we're going back to whenever I was working. We own property that does not have a civic number on it. More than one. So what happens, for instance, take the Iroquois outdoor rink. What happens if somebody gets hurt there and you make a 911 call? They will not come because they don't have a civic number. Our park, it doesn't have a civic number. And I've always, and Shannon, you'll testify to this, I've always had an issue with a civic number on our own property. So to me, I don't see an issue with issuing somebody a civic number. If somebody gets hurt, the ambulance has to know where to go. And that's my 1.5 cents worth.
Mayor?
I supported the Emily project just for that reason. You hope nothing's going to happen, but if people are clearing oftentimes people buy a residential lot, the first thing they do is pull out the chainsaw and try and clear it themselves, whether it's a heart attack or whatever. I think this is a simple request. I think we can come up with something to work around. I don't want to be the council that had this discussion and then somebody is clearing a tree and it falls on them and the ambulance doesn't know where to go. So I think for the amount of requests that we would have for this, I think when I look at risk management, I think the risk of somebody wanting it and us saying no is fairly high if they know there's going to be contractors and stuff on it. So I think we can figure out some way to make this happen.
And I agree with all of you. I think, our civic number bylaw is pretty basic. There's not a lot to it. And all we have to do is say you are allowed a civic number, but it does not give you these rights. Ding, 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 ding. because I know that, you know, some have abused it and some have. There are civic numbers out there on lots that have no building permit. So it happened in the past. I think some of that happened prior to amalgamation and the sign's still living. But I think Councillor Wells has brought a good point forward that, you know, if somebody wants a number, these are parameters we give you the number, and these are the rights that it conveys to you, and these are the rights it does not convey to you, and then we'll go from there and see what others do. Would that be fair to staff to come back and with a solution to this issue? And clean this one up a bit. I think, you know, there's no mention of building permit in here or nothing, so maybe that's something you needed to do anyway, but I think that makes some logical sense.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there is also, I found, a very dated policy that, so we have the bylaw and then we have a dated policy. So I think we need to merge the two and provide some further clarification, maybe to, you know, even have a clause that an entrance permit will be, it has to, the parameters that there is an entrance permit approved by Jeff. Because when your staff go out to place the civic number on a vacant lot, you would want to ensure it's at an approved entrance, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll bring that back as a draft at the next meeting.
Okay, Councillor Wells, that's good? No, it was good. It was a good point. Okay, thank you, Jeff. Next one, key information report, compliments and complaint report as of June 17, 2022. Jeff Mayor.
Some discussion is the last topic. I think for this, whenever we talked about complaints and compliments report, there was worry that it was kind of an exercise of shaming. You know, you've got that whatever. For me, it's 15 pages of all closed things. I think we need to, and kudos to the staff, we have at the time of submission, nothing moving. I think it's important with this to move on. I'm seeing the red and the yellow, and I mean, you definitely want to keep them somewhere if somebody wanted to see how many complaints do we have, this or that. But I think in this case, I think when we don't, just the active complaints, or maybe within the past month, if any aren't resolved past that point, then obviously, but you guys are doing a good job of closing them and dealing with them, and I think that needs to be celebrated instead of 15 pages of red.
Okay, nope, duly noted.
Okay, any other comments from council on that? Yeah, I think, you know, a month's worth of what's happened, because it certainly is an interesting read, and there are times I just wonder how people complain about certain things, and I know I'm on camera and people think but there are some things there that I talked to the bylaw officer this morning, gave him full credit of having to deal with every one of them, because they're a bit challenging.
Common sense.
Yeah, it's not so common right now, sorry.
That's why I'm just saying there's no common sense.
Anyway, I know some people won't like that, but you gotta have a good complaint. And there are many legitimate ones, but there's some real ones that, sorry. Website update for community employment page. Jeff Mayor again.
This was a great idea. I know that businesses are having a hard time getting people to work for them, so I thought this was fantastic. I know there's been really good success with Team Cornwall. They do this and they list them all the time. Just a couple of questions. So every time we want to do something different on the website, we're going to have to ask, like we're going to have to pay an additional fee?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it depends on what it is.
Okay.
There's certain development things that it's a lot more streamlined and easier for us to go to the developer to do. There's other things that when we do updates, we do them ourselves.
Okay.
Something like this, you're actually building and using like a code in the background, so
Okay.
that would just take a lot.
Yeah, I was just curious because I mean most job wanted boards, if you will, seem like a fairly simple template, and even though it's not a massive amount of dollars, it just I was shocked by the cost because it just didn't seem like something that's super complicated. I'm giving you kudos, Kayla. I thought you could do it on your own without the additional
Probably
use.
could, but they have a team that's going to be working on it.
There's the answer. Okay, no, that's good. And when we're monitoring them, one of the things that drives me absolutely crazy about job boards is when they get outdated. Yeah,
yeah.
so like just policing it and make sure, because there's nothing worse. Somebody goes on and goes, "Oh my God, I want to apply for that job," and it's like you applied it closed like 6 months ago. So yeah, that.
So, yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, one of the provisions that we want the developer to actually do is that when they'll have an expiry date, and
Yeah.
when they expire, they almost like automatically.
Disappear.
And for this as well, will you, because I know I think you're going to cross post on social media. Can you do that when there becomes like a whole bunch more added? Because I noticed they have the job board, but then they'll put a little flag on social media saying, please check out our updated, I know it seems like a lot of work, but just to get people used to going to check, because it's something it's something we've never done before, so.
Yes, so through you, Mr. Mayor, just to be clear, we're not gonna post on social media the jobs.
No, just to go look.
But just, yes.
Yeah.
Advertise it to the businesses that they can use it,
Yeah.
which will be a simultaneous advertisement that you can find jobs there, and it'll be worked into our marketing and
Yeah.
social media rotation.
Okay.
Just like the other things that we do kind of throughout the year, same thing with like Voyant Alert, where
Yeah.
we're gonna do X number per year, we do the same thing with
Yeah,
this.
okay.
Yeah.
Because and the hashtag thing, right? Like if you're hashtagging Chamber of Commerce, if you do all the hashtags. Okay, that was my only thing, because I think it's fantastic and I want it to succeed, and I think it's absolutely needed in South Dundas, but it's just making sure it goes. So thank you, Caitlin.
No problem.
Okay, any other comments from council on this? I think that idea was brought to me by a business that's struggling, tried to find businesses, or workers, I should say. He and everybody else is having the same challenge this year, so, but we have to try. I think there's an opportunity for us to help the local businesses at least post what's out there, and it'll go a little bit more than just the sign at the gate saying, this is what we're looking for, and that's basically every position but the boss, and go from there. So we need, once you get this there, then conveying to everybody it's there and how it can be used is key.
Well, and it helps us in other things too, because if you have like the Ross Video jobs or whatever, if people are looking, or doctors or whatever, it's gonna put it all in one spot, so it's
Okay,
awesome.
thank you.
Thank you.
Next one is the SDG County Support for Community Schools Alliance Action Plan.
Okay, I'd like to support this through a resolution. I actually had conversations with Deputy Mayor Jarowski. This was something that we wanted to do, and I'm hoping that whoever's sitting in every seat in SDG, the Community Schools Alliance, will come to them very early on in the next term and build up their membership as a voice, because I think school closures are going to be definitely part of the dialogue for the next 4 years. Anyone that thinks that's not going to happen, I hope they're right. So I would like to support the Community Schools Alliance Action Plan. It's on 234, page 234.
Okay, so, Madam Clerk, you have a resolution? Yes. Okay, go
Moved
ahead
by
with it.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Gardner, seconded by Councillor Wells, that the Council of the Municipality of South Dundas support the resolution from the Municipality of Chennai
Yeah.
regarding Community Schools Alliance Action Plan, and that a copy of this resolution of support and the resolution from the Municipality of Chennai and the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry be sent to all local municipalities, local MPs and MPPs, the Minister of Education, and the Premier of Ontario.
Okay. Any further comments on this from anybody?
Oh, I might add the Minister of Municipal Affairs.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
How about the Minister of Education?
It's listed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All heard motion, those in favor. Opposed, if any, motion carries.
Thank you so much.
That was an easy one. Okay, any notices of motion tonight, Madam Clerk?
There are not.
Okay, then before we go into closed session, I'd like to thank council for their work so far. I'd like to thank all staff for their presentations tonight, and I'd like to thank the audience for participating in South Dundas Council. Once we get done with closed session, we will be basically moving out of closed session, doing the ratification bylaw and adjournment. So this will be it for this evening for our recording. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Moved by Councillor Lewis, seconded by Councillor Mellon, that council proceed in camera pursuant to sections 239, 2B and E of the Municipal Act. Personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal local board employees, and litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality, more specifically related to an Ontario Land Tribunal hearing.
All heard the motion. Those in favor? Opposed, if any, motion carries. Thank you very much.